Dallas, Texas, the hockey world focuses on the future. It hit 103 degrees today outside of American Airlines Center, so a good time to get off the bus and get inside an arena that's home to the Dallas Stars and which tonight will welcome the future stars of the sport. This is the 2018 NHL Draft. The scene inside American Airlines Center, an early look at what will be an evening of discussions, deals, and decisions. Of course, some choices easier than others. The Sabres are primed to use the top pick on a can't-miss defensive prospect out of Sweden. The Ottawa Senators, well, they've already traded away Mike Hoffman, and now many are wondering if Erik Karlsson will be next. We'll get into it all. Hello, everyone. Liam McHugh with Craig Button, Pierre McGuire, and Bob McKenzie, who has not tweeted out the first 10 to 20 picks of the draft. He's restrained himself, and we all appreciate that. In just about a half an hour, Gary Bettman's going to walk to the podium. He's going to put the Buffalo Sabres on the clock. They will select first overall for the first time since 1987. They're locked in on Rasmus Dahlin, and that's where we begin tonight's storyline.
Yes, they are locked in on a franchise-defining elite number one defenseman. When you watch them play in the Swedish Hockey League at 16 years of age, you had no idea. There is nothing he can't do in the game. His confidence, his assuredness, and he will try things with a great imagination. And I'll tell you what, you consider that I think he very well may be the best defenseman in the draft since Dennis Potvin in 1973.
But Craig, it's not only about Swedish defensemen and they're great. This is a celebration of American hockey, the pride of the Boston University Terriers, Brady Tkachuk, and then you see Quinn Hughes, the man out of Michigan. And sitting behind him, Quinn Hughes' two brothers, Luke and Jack. Jack might go number one next year, and Luke's already committed to Michigan, Bob.
A lot of people believe this draft almost begins at number 3 because we believe that the top two picks are already ordained with Rasmus Dahlin and Andrei Svechnikov. The Montreal Canadiens own the third pick. They are taking offers on it, but they're also looking very seriously at what they might pick there. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, a big Finnish center, might address a positional need, but there's great wingers in Filip Zadina and Brady Tkachuk as well.
Take you back to 2008, the NHL Draft, a little bit of the Wild West. 13 trades involving over a dozen first-round picks and 7 players. 10 years later, we're wondering if we're going to see fireworks here tonight, and that's where we find Darren Dreger in the middle of it all. What are you hearing?
Well, Ian, we do have a trade to announce between the Washington Capitals and the Colorado Avalanche, and this one is a trade of interest as the Colorado Avalanche certainly adding insurance in the position of goaltending, acquiring Philip Grubauer from the Washington Capitals, along with veteran defenseman Brooks Orpik. Now, in exchange, the Washington Capitals will get Colorado's second-round pick, 47th overall. So not a bad way to start things here as we get ready for the first round of the NHL draft. There's a ton of speculation coming out of Ottawa, the likes of Buffalo, and of course Carolina Hurricanes to name but a few. So we'll have that all covered coming up shortly, Liam.
Darren, thanks so much. So the Washington Capitals win the Stanley Cup, and they remain headline makers here at the draft. We'll talk a little bit more about that deal in a second. But we bring it back to Buffalo, finished last in the NHL for the third time in the last 5 years. But they finally win the lottery, and they do so when they have a can't-miss prospect in Rasmus Dahlin. So explain to Sabres fans why they should be so excited right now.
Because Rasmus Dahlin is a combination of Erik Karlsson and Nick Lidstrom. I know everybody out there saying, wait, whoa, stop. No, I'm not stopping. Here's why. Watch this mind go to work. Shooter in the lane, move over. No, escapability. Get to the inside part of the ice, create a shooting opportunity, get the puck to the net. How about this? You don't teach this in hockey school. Total domination against the Russians. Through the feet, awareness all the time, driving, creating space, creating time, making room for his teammates. And how about this one coming out of his own zone? Boom, on the tape and out. I know it's a lot of people saying it's a little bit too much for an 18-year-old. He can handle it, Bob.
Well, the hype is understandable because as good as Nick Lidstrom is, and he's the greatest Swedish defenseman of all time, as good as Victor Hedman is, Erik Karlsson, none of them were as accomplished at the same age as Rasmus Dahlin, but he's still got a long way to go. to accomplish what those guys have done in the National Hockey League.
I'll tell you who else is going to be really happy. The likes of Jack Eichel and Casey Middlestat. We're going to get the puck on their stick in prime positions all over the ice. He's going to dominate in the NHL eventually, and he's going to be a real strong player as an 18-year-old this coming season.
You know who's going to be a better coach? Phil Housley, because he has that young man on the back end.
So Dahlin, primed to become just the 15th defenseman to be selected first overall in the NHL draft. He's standing by with Catherine Tappan.
Yeah, Liam, and he seems pretty relaxed if you ask me, but chatting with Rasmus here. Rasmus, what are you thinking right now as the moment is finally here?
It's feeling like it's close now so I'm kind of more nervous than before.
What did you guys do last night? I know you have a lot of your friends and family here from Sweden. What did you guys do?
Yeah, we have a small cocktail party, then we went out for dinner. So we had a great time last night. So yeah, everyone is so excited.
Have you had any conversations with Buffalo?
No, not yet. We'll see what's happening today, and yeah, like I've said, I'm so excited for yeah. It's 30 minutes left, so I'm kind of nervous.
What are you more nervous about, though? I know you're a soccer fan. Are you more nervous about tonight or Sweden-Germany tomorrow in the World Cup?
I'm gonna go probably tonight, but it's a big game for Sweden against Germany, so that should be exciting too.
Well, Rasmus, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the moment tonight.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks so much. It's advantage Sweden tonight. They're expected to have 4 or 5 prospects go in the first round. Only 1 German prospect expected to go. This is downtown Buffalo, outside of KeyBank Center. Sabres draft party. Good time to be a Buffalo sports fan right now. They're looking to pick up a generational talent. Dahlin, the unquestioned #1 pick. Andrei Svechnikov, almost certain to be selected second by Carolina. After that, it gets interesting. And up next, we're going to focus on the top 2 American prospects, Brady Tkachuk and Quinn Hughes. The NHL draft is part of family affair and a roommate reunion.
Rated PG-13.
You should see our basement. It was really bad. It started off as brown and it's pretty much black now from pucks.
I broke my neighbor's window once, hit the crossbar, and I went flying, and yeah, we had to pay for that one.
A couple of replacements of the garage door.
There's a bunch of windows. But eventually, later on, we got plexiglass for our windows because our driveway was facing like our living room, so no more broken windows for my mom and dad had to pay for.
From broken windows and basement battles to battling out in the NHL ice, Brady will be the 3rd member of his family to be drafted in the first round. His former teammate, the U.S. Under-18 team, Quinn Hughes, could be the first of 3 members of his family to wear an NHL jersey. Now at the draft combine, we caught up with the 2 future stars who are best friends and were one-time roommates.
So we live in an apartment complex. So you go through the door, you go downstairs. That's Quinn's room. He's got his own bathroom, and we explained it. And then you got the garage, and then you go like up 2 flights. Wake up, all right? Like, grow up.
Sorry.
Grow up.
I'm down.
Grow up. Consider him a brother now, and now we know each other's flaws too, and I try to pick at the flaws and try to get him going too. And he got fiery at times, which I kind of love. You have to say anything about that, or no? I went Tyler tomorrow. Oh, it's 5-1 right now.
I try to win at everything I do.
Oh, good save, Goldberg.
I wouldn't really want to play against Keith. He'd probably kill me.
BU in the scarlet red sweaters, Michigan in the white.
Well, it began, I
think someone scored. I forgot who it is.
Yeah,
I think that's how it began.
Hughes pulls the trigger. Score!
I think it was a fluke goal or something, but it's all right. I told him that day we're not talking. It's friends off the ice and competitors on the ice. So I think later that game, like, it kind of ran you, right? I remember Quinn slashing me. So I went up behind him. I gave him a little credit card and told him, don't do that again, or, it's going to get pretty physical here. So.
Oh, what's a credit card, Brady?
Oh, just a little stick in between the legs. I'm not afraid to say that. I didn't get a penalty, didn't get suspended, so no, I just want to let him know that didn't appreciate it, and if he wants to keep doing it, I can play dirty too.
It's all good. It doesn't affect me. My mental toughness is greater than that, so yeah. I think that was just me being in your head. Me being in your head, so
okay, yeah.
I think you were just pretty rattled, so I don't even know if it was me who slashed you, but
it's all right.
It's all good.
We're moving on.
I think we can if you want.
First at 10 is the game. Here we go.
we spent a lot of time together the last couple of years. I mean,
been a couple fights, and I think that's what makes brothers is going through the good times and bad times together. We're definitely best friends and brothers.
Odd couple, but best friends. When they played together, what'd you learn about them individually?
Well, it's not just individually, but together they battered teams. So you talk about broken windows and whatnot. They were able to beat up teams because, when you got a defenseman that's so gifted and understands how to get himself open, and then a forward like Brady who understands what's happening all around him and can quickly adjust, it's unbelievable. I think they planned this out in the basement, no question about it. Hey, you get open, I'll put the puck on your stick. Based on that last interview, if Hughes didn't put it on his stick, I think Brady would have given it to him pretty good. But these are two excellent players. They're thinkers, they're competitors. And when you consider them moving forward into the NHL, they're going to do exactly what you saw in that tape with their teammates.
Well, let's take it there. Moving forward into the NHL, we talked about Rasmus Dahlin and the idea that he could be an instant impact guy. How long is it going to take these two?
I don't think it'll take Brady Tkachuk as much as it'll take a little bit longer maybe for Quinn Hughes. But here's the biggest thing about Quinn Hughes, and this is what I like. Dmitry Orlov and Nate Schmidt both made a huge impact for their respective teams. Orlov on a Stanley Cup winning team, Nate Schmidt helping bring Vegas to the Stanley Cup final. Both of them under 6 feet tall. 10 years ago, I'm not sure Quinn Hughes is a first-round pick. But this has completely changed. You need a puck transporter. You need undersized guys who can move the puck and also establish offense. And that's one of, I think, the big things going forward. And that's why I think Quinn Hughes is in a top 10 pick.
These guys are not just great young American hockey players. These are great young American hockey families. Because obviously Matthew Tkachuk has made an instant impact for the Calgary Flames in the National Hockey League. And Brady, whenever he gets there, will do the same thing. You've got Quinn Hughes and his brother Jack, who right now is a potential #1 overall pick in next year's draft, and another younger brother, Luke, who could come along too. So these are not just players you're going to hear about, but great American families of hockey.
And just to quickly add to that, at the World Championships that Quinn played in, he impressed a lot of NHL players that were playing alongside him,
he also
including Patrick Kane.
And his coach was Jeff Blashill, who worked for the Detroit Red Wings.
Sure, and Brady Tkachuk talking about the credit card maneuver. We'll see if he brings that to the NHL. But you mentioned the Tkachuks and the family there. Well, tail of the tape, you look at their size when they entered the NHL, when they were drafted. Keith, 6'2", 212. He bulked up to 235 playing weight. Matthew, a very solid 6'2", 202. But Brady, 6'3". He could definitely stand to put on a little bit of weight at 192. Now, 2 years ago, the Flames selected Matthew Tkachuk 6th overall. He's with Darren.
All right, Liam, thanks very much. Obviously, Matthew, let's revisit the relationship between Brady and Quinn, the Tkachuk family, the Hughes family. I mean, these two families have been very close over the years.
Yeah, Brady and Quinn lived together with our parents separating. Every 2 weeks a month they'd split it up, and got to know them very, very well. I was played in London when they were there, so I got to sneak down every once in a while. Quinn's an awesome kid. Family's a great family, and we're really good family friends with them.
Well, we think we know what to expect from Brady Tkachuk in the National Hockey League. What does the big brother think?
I mean, I expect him to play sooner rather than later. It's all up to what he wants. I think the teams that are going to pick him, they're going to pick him high. They need a guy like him right away. It's going to be up to him whether he wants to go back to college or play. Great player, future NHL captain. It's a real treat to watch as a brother. As a fan, their team going to love him.
Well, assuming that Matthew and Brady don't at some point end up on the same team, I, for one, am looking forward to the sibling rivalry. Catherine?
All right, Darren, thanks. I'm joined now by Quinn's mom, Ellen Hughes. And Ellen, the oldest of your three sons is going to get drafted tonight. What does this moment mean to you and your family?
Well, it's somewhat surreal. It's amazing that it's actually here. And I'm just really, truly excited for all these kids that are here today. And we know so many of them, and it's just such an amazing experience. And for me personally, I grew up in Dallas. I played my youth hockey here. So it's extra special to think that I left here as an 18-year-old to go play hockey at the University of New Hampshire and play soccer there. And now I'm back some 32 years later with my 18-year-old son who's going to be drafted here in Dallas, of all places.
Well, speaking of your hockey pedigree, you mentioned you played at UNH. You won a silver medal with Team USA at the Women's World Championship. You're also responsible for teaching your son, Quinn, how to skate. So what's your earliest memory of him?
Well, I think, having a husband that was in the game and around the game, we both had so much passion for it. So you know, even as a 2-year-old, I can remember him trying to put skates on. He'd watch his dad coach, and he just loved the game. So I can't believe that, you know, 16 years later, here we are, and it's pretty amazing. I'm just so proud of him, and I'm so happy that he's so passionate about the greatest game out there.
Well, thank you so much, Ellen, for joining us. Good luck tonight.
Thanks a lot.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. A proud mom. Ellen might be the best athlete in the family. She told you why there. Her son, Quinn, be drafted tonight. Another son, Jack, as Pierre mentioned, could very well be the #1 overall pick in next year's draft. Some of his skills on display here. The youngest brother, Luke, by the way, as Pierre mentioned, also 14 years old, already a major prospect. But tonight belongs to Quinn Hughes, and he could be part of a very big first round for American players. In all, 8 U.S.-born players could be taken in round 1. That includes Oliver Wahlstrom, who has gone from trick shot internet fame to the major stage and spotlight of the NHL draft. Our coverage from Dallas continues after this.
Come true.
My dad used to work at a little local rink. I would skate by myself when I was 8, 9, and just have an imagination every time I went out on the ice. Right when I picked up the puck, I was like, nah, why not? Yeah, I'll try it. And when it went in, I went back to the bench and didn't know what happened. This was a year later, and I practiced this one, and I was like, hey, I'll try it. If it's illegal, I don't know. This one was cool, but I think the one, the spin around with the first one, was probably the greatest one, for sure.
A viral video when he was 9, his name called at the NHL draft 9 years later. This is Draft Delivers, presented by Denny's. We focus on Oliver Wahlstrom.
Yeah, best goal scorer in the draft. He can beat you so many different ways. He's got that ability to get open and get open quickly. And when you start thinking about Alexander Ovechkin, who just hoisted the Stanley Cup, he sets up in that office. He knows exactly what he's doing. But when you consider you're looking at an elite goal scorer, those are very much in demand.
Well, I'm going to go to a guy that's right now rated to go in the second round, Jay O'Brien out of Thayer Academy. If you look at the pedigree of some of the players that have come out of Thayer Academy, Jeremy Roenick, Tony Amonte, Brooks Orpik, Charlie Coyle. He's coached by Tony Amonte right now at Thayer. I had a chance to watch Jay play a ton this year at Thayer. I think he's a player that's going to Providence College that should sneak into the first round, Bob McKenzie.
One of the real wild cards in this draft is Ryan Merkley, a member of the Guelph Storm. A sub-6 foot but highly talented offensive defenseman who is probably amongst the top 10 most talented players in this entire draft. But scouts have some concerns about his attitude. He doesn't like to play defense. He's sometimes hard on teammates. He sometimes has difficulties with coaches. There's a real immaturity to his game on and off the ice over the course of this season, but the rewards are potentially huge. We've got him at number 32 on our board. NHL scouts trying to figure out whether to take this guy in the first round today or not.
Yeah, Bob, from the risk-reward aspect that dominates the Ryan Merkley discussion to the sure bet that is Rasmus Dahlin, an electric 18-year-old and the latest in a long line of extremely gifted Swedish defensemen.
This is a generational talent on the blue line.
I would love to play like Lidstrom.
The first European-born captain to be handed the Stanley Cup.
He's a great leader and a great hockey player.
Coming this season to Sabres hockey, a Hall of Fame defenseman coaching a can't-miss defensive talent. Earlier this year, Phil Housley told reporters he's been watching Rasmus Dahlin on YouTube, and that, quote, it's incredible. Recently, it was Dahlin's turn to break down the film.
Dahlin som siktade in sig.
I just play hockey because I love it. A guy come to me, I went through him and I scored. It was a real feeling after that goal.
Bill Housley.
You hold the puck and just wait for the goal.
Housley, he scores!
It was a great goal. He seems very good hockey player.
All right, we're not a half an hour in. We've already compared him to Lidstrom and to Carlson, but the most recent Swede to win the Norris, of course, is Victor Hedman. So how does Dahlin stack up in that comparison?
Well, I think he compares incredibly similarly. And when you consider the way they play the game, first of all, Dahlin's able to beat pressure. He's quick, he's fast, and the puck comes out of your zone. Just like Hedman plays the game. under control with an understanding. And then when Dahlin gets galloping through the neutral zone, there's nobody that can catch up with him. And that's exactly how Hedman, once he gets that thrust of speed moving forward, he just continues to go exactly where he wants. And then the ability to hold the puck, understand where the opportunities are going to rise, that's where Dahlin. I watched this, and if you switched them, I wouldn't know who was Dahlin and who was Hedman.
Hedman, of course, was drafted second overall, right behind John Tavares. Rare to see a defenseman taken first in the draft. It's happened only 14 times before tonight. The latest was Aaron Ekblad, and he went on to win Rookie of the Year. That, of course, will probably be the expectation for Dahlin. Now, 30 years ago, in 1988, the fate of hockey in Dallas was altered when an NHL team from Minnesota decided to draft Mike Modano #1 overall. In 1993, the North Stars moved south to Dallas, and 6 years later, Modano helped them capture the Stanley Cup. He's a Hockey Hall of Famer, the all-time leading scorer amongst American-born players, and his jersey hangs in the rafters here at American Airlines Center. And right now, Mike Modano is standing by with Catherine.
All right, Liam, thanks. You're just standing here watching that video. Does that make you feel old, Mike, 30 years ago?
It does. We're bordering on 50, so that's not good. That's not making me feel good.
What do you remember most from that day when you were drafted?
Just the tension and nervousness, and plus being in the Forum in Montreal was just an amazing setting and atmosphere, and just how nervous I was sitting there because no one knew who was going anywhere. We didn't know what Minnesota was going to do, and between Trevor and I, we didn't know where we were going to go. So they made it. Lou did a good deal of disguising that well.
You were the face of this franchise for 21 years. Well, how significant is it that this draft is here in Dallas this season?
Well, it's another great feather in their cap. I think, with the runs we had in the playoffs, it got people really excited about the game. We had the All-Star game. We've had some other events here, and then this draft really kind of epitomizes it and puts it, really on the map as a good, strong hockey town. We've had some of the greatest, loyalist fans here, and who've been here since day one when we got off the plane from Minnesota. So we're pretty lucky down here, and we got a following is really strong.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing you later today. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Catherine.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. Hoisted the cup in '99. Director of Player Personnel for the Dallas Stars was Craig Button. Can you hold your hand up that long with that? It's pretty heavy.
It is
like
heavy. I usually don't. I only wear it when I'm in Dallas, and I'll tell you what, Mike Modano was the face of the franchise when we came down here from Minnesota. I mean, not only did he have the great looks, I can't believe he's going to be 50. He still looks about 22. But I'll tell you what, it was the brilliance on the ice, and we don't win the Stanley Cup without that brilliance.
And some of the decisions made by the executives. Let's keep the conversation in the front office, and let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens. A massive night for them, Darren.
Liam, the Montreal Canadiens definitely feeling the heat. We know where the holes are in the organization. Marc Bergevin continues to look for a center. He did not want to give up the third pick overall to the Buffalo Sabres for Ryan O'Reilly, so the search continues. Max Pacioretty, a primary target of interest. Marc Bergevin receiving at least 4 calls on him earlier today, but so far, no deal.
So a big night for Montreal. Bob, Chicago.
Big draft for the Chicago Blackhawks. They're not used to picking in the top 10 unless you win a draft lottery in the old days. And to have the number 8 pick and the number 27 pick, the number 8 pick may not meet an immediate impact in their lineup next season per se, but this is all part of the retool on the fly as they try to supplement the aging core and add some strong youth to that.
Well, the New York Rangers, let's take a look. 3 picks in the first round, 9, 26, and 28. Going into the month of March, they said we're going to be aggressive in terms of our rebuild. They started to move players like Ryan McDonough, JT Miller, Michael Grabner to open up cap room so they could be players in free agency. They acquired draft picks, and if you look at Glenn Sather and his group, they're ready to rebuild with aggression, Bob.
Colorado, they've already broken the ice in the trade front.
Yeah, they pick up goaltender Philip Grubauer for a second-round pick. They also take on Brooks Orpik. That's a salary dump by the Washington Capitals. More on that in a moment. As far as the Colorado Avalanche ends, if it goes, Semyon Varlamov is their number 1 goaltender, but he's had a lot of injuries. Grubauer can compete for a number 1 spot. He's a restricted free agent. They should get a contract done. As for Orpik, they will move him on as necessary, either buy him out or move him on. But the most important thing for Washington, they got rid of cap space because they need to sign John Carlson. he's going to be looking for $8 million a year in a long-term deal.
So some decisions already made. Tonight, 31 talented and hardworking young men will hear their names called. Their lives will never be the same. It begins with Buffalo. The Sabres hold the first pick. Their fans feeling the anticipation.
A change of fortune, a lasting memory. That's what draft night can be.
So let's get started.
The impact can be immediate.
Oh my, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews! And it's Nico Hischier.
It can be franchise defining.
And the Pittsburgh Penguins are the Stanley Cup champion. The Chicago Blackhawks have won the Stanley Cup!
Alex Ovechkin, it's your honor.
Now, can the defenseman from Sweden be the savior in Western New York?
This is a generational talent on the blue line.
And if your last name is Tkachuk, are you ready to add to the legacy of the first family of American hockey?
Just like his dad and brother, he's got a certain edge to his game.
Or is Quinn Hughes the first in line for a dominating trio of brothers?
The long shot, score!
Remember these names. Remember this moment. Tonight, the Big D in Dallas stands for Dahlin. Buffalo, you're on the clock.
Welcome to Dallas in the 2018 NHL Draft, an evening of youth, talent, and potential. This is the first year that players born in the 21st century will be selected. But before we look to the future, we take a moment to remember some members of the hockey community who we lost earlier this year.
On the evening of April 6th, unimaginable tragedy struck a junior hockey team on its way to something joyous. The Humboldt Broncos, 23 young men with hockey dreams not unlike those of many in the arena tonight, and 6 men and women who coached, trained, and supported them, were to meet their rivals from Nipawin in a Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League playoff game. When the Broncos team bus collided with a truck, 16 souls were lost, 13 more suffered serious injuries, and an entire town's life was changed forever. Because that town, Humboldt, Saskatchewan, is a hockey town, that meant that our entire sport felt the loss and the pain. Hockey then did what it always does at times like this. It came together. From NHL teams paying tribute at league games, to NHL players, coaches, and owners attending funerals and visiting the injured, to countless people from all around the globe donating money, putting out sticks, and turning on lights, hockey came together, and Humboldt came together. In 2015, the National
Whoa. We have some important business to do relative to Humboldt. Let's do that, and then you can boo me all night, okay? But I do appreciate your enthusiastic welcome. In 2015, the National Hockey League created the E.J. McGuire Award of Excellence, named after the beloved coach, NHL scouting director, and innovator who dedicated his life to supporting young players. This award is presented annually for exemplifying the commitment to excellence through strength of character, competitiveness, and athleticism that were EJ's core values. Tonight, the NHL and its 31-member clubs gather to salute an organization that lives those values. It is my honor to present the 2018 E.J. McGuire Award of Excellence to the Humboldt Broncos. Accepting the award, please welcome Team President Kevin Garinger.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bettman. I want to thank the NHL, the NHL Central Scouting, for this prestigious award. As we know, E.J. McGuire was an exceptional leader in the hockey community. And I want to accept this award on behalf of the great leaders we had within the Humboldt Broncos organization, including our head coach and general manager, the face and heart and soul of our organization, Mr. Darcy Hogan. And I accept this award on behalf of his assistant coach, Mark Cross, and his trainer, Dana Bronze, and all the staff who passed away, and all 10 of our athletes who are no longer with us. And I accept this award on behalf of the 13 athletes who remain with us, 4 of whom are still in hospital, including Lane Matichuk and Morgan Gobey and Jacob Wasserman and Ryan Strasnitsky. These people were true leaders on the ice and off the ice, and they will continue to lead our world, and they will continue to help us as a Humboldt Broncos organization, as a community of Humboldt, as a province of Saskatchewan, as the countries of Canada and the USA and across this world. They will continue to help us remain Humboldt strong, and they will continue to ensure that we can all help in the healing process, as we are all Humboldt Broncos. Thank you.
Our thoughts and prayers will always be with the wonderful people of Humboldt. We begin this weekend in honor of the people of Humboldt and the countless fans, coaches, rink operators, parents, and billet families in hockey cities and towns around the world who make it possible for talented young people to reach this point, the 2018 NHL Draft. This is our 56th draft in NHL history, and it's the first one here in Dallas. That's better. As Jim Light said to this group earlier, the Dallas Stars organization and the fans of Dallas long ago established the template for how to transform what some would call a non-traditional hockey market into a thriving hockey market. And we are delighted to be here. Yeah, we are. Tonight and tomorrow, our 31 clubs will make selections that will not only set franchise courses for years to come, but will also fulfill the lifelong dreams of the young men who hear their names called. It's an exciting time made even more special by the hospitality of a great host city. Thank you, Tom Gallardi, Jim Lights, Brad Alberts, Mayor Mike Rawlings, for welcoming the NHL family. And thank you to the fans here in the American Airlines Center. And the thousands more attending watch parties across North America and watching on our TV outlets. So, Dallas, let's get started. The first selection of the 2018 NHL Draft belongs to the Buffalo Sabres.
So, Buffalo Sabres fans here, they know their team is on the clock. They have 3 minutes. You wouldn't think they're going to need 3 minutes. Rasmus Dahlin, expected to be the pick. We've compared him to Erik Karlsson. We've compared him to Victor Hedman. We've compared him to Nicklas Lidstrom. Give me someone outside of the box that you could compare him to.
Well, geez, now you really put me on the spot. I mean, one team that's not going to be put on the spot is the Buffalo Sabres. Barry Sanders, the great NFL running back, he was so elusive. It seemed that when you had him trapped, you never had him trapped. And that's exactly where Rasmus Dahlin finds himself. He was that player that you almost seemed to think, okay, we got him right where we want him. Uh-oh, no you don't. And that's the brilliance of him. He's fearless, he's confident, and he is so capable of making plays on the move, adjusting to what an opponent is doing, and then breaking free, just like the great Barry Sanders.
So how does he make people miss? Well, consider this from the GM of his team in Sweden. We say he has the vision of a mosquito. If you try to hit a mosquito, well, the mosquito can get away because it can process it in slow motion. That's how Rasmus is. Is that going to translate when he reaches the NHL?
Absolutely. That's a trick that doesn't go away anytime soon. Watch his goal against Skellefteå, one of the top teams in Sweden. Now, this isn't against kids. This is against men. He just goes dangling around the entire group, starting in his own zone and finishing. Again, the escapability process that he has is amazing. There's a player that he does remind me of. That's not Swedish. Brian Leach, the former New York Ranger great. I watched him play at Avon. I watched him play at Boston College. His escapability was second to none. I see that with Rasmus Dahlin.
16 years old in that video.
Yeah, that's a remarkable thing. He was like 11 or 12 years old. He was still playing forward in minor hockey in Sweden, switched to defense. He plays defense like a forward, but in the last year, he's grown by leaps and bounds. He's close to 6'3". He's becoming a much more rangy, more physical guy, and now he's got an ability to dominate at both ends of the ice.
We've used that term generational talent. We've used it before. Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, and they both came into the league. Instant impact. How instant should the impact and how big should the impact be for Buffalo?
How about game one? And how big will it be significant? He was on a very good team in Sweden with Frölunda and was a very good player on a team that lost in the Swedish Hockey League final 2 years ago. He played in the Olympics, not very much, but he should have. And I think anybody that was there knows he should have played more. He's going to start in the NHL day one, and he's going to start and be very good, and he's only going to get better.
I think he's got a chance to be the Rookie of the Year. I mean,
I think he's got the best chance.
He's going to get in there, and he's going to dominate right from the start. He's going to be that good.
So, expectations, they're set.
No suspense
and Buffalo
here.
Sabres up on the stage, and here's the pick.
We'd like to thank our fans back in Buffalo celebrating with us tonight. And we'd like to thank the Dallas Stars for their hospitality they've shown all year. And, of course, congratulations to the Washington Capitals for their Stanley Run Championship. Jason, are you ready?
On behalf of our great fans in Western New York, the Buffalo Sabres are proud to select Frölunda defenseman Rasmus Dahlin.
Rasmus Dahlin says his favorite players, Erik Karlsson and Peter Forsberg. Erik Karlsson says Dahlin's, quote, much better than he was at that same age. Rasmus Dahlin, the first overall pick in the 2018 NHL draft. And there's the scene back in Buffalo. The party is on in downtown.
I can't wait to do a game there next year. With Jack Eichel, you think about it. Sammy Reinhart, Rasmus Dahlin, Rasmus Ristolainen. Like, look at where this team is going. It's still going to be so exciting to watch their young players all grow together. Can't wait to do a game in Buffalo.
Phil Housley, the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, is going to love to coach a guy like this because he's got a lot of the same qualities that Phil Housley had when he was taken in the top 5 of the draft by the Buffalo Sabres out of South St. Paul. Always remember that draft. Phil Housley, such a naive kid coming down. He had the long red hair. They put the sweater on and they said to him, Montreal Forum floor, who would you say your style is comparable to? He goes, Bobby Orr. And he didn't mean I'm the next Bobby Orr. But this kid, he's humble, he's focused. I mean, the very first time he was at a National Hockey League game was the Stanley Cup Finals. So in many ways, he's as green as the grass, except when you put him on the ice.
And exactly it. I mean, when you watch him play, there's just no sense of how young he really is. And the command of the game and his ability, you hear the story about the mosquito, and, you know, it's his ability to just continuously adjust to what the next play is and to be one step ahead of it and to be able to maneuver in every single regard. Elite number one, the defensemen don't come along, and the Buffalo Sabres just drafted one.
His family there reacting to him being drafted. His sister Ella. What a time to be a Buffalo sports fan. The Bills snap a very lengthy playoff drought, then draft their quarterback of the future. The Sabres get the number 1 overall pick, and they use it on a generational talent. And it's a night of firsts for Rasmus Dahlin. First as in the Sabres' first overall pick since 1987 when they selected Pierre Turgeon. First defenseman selected #1 overall since Aaron Ekblad 2014. He went on to win Rookie of the Year. And the first Swedish-born player to be selected #1 overall since Mats Sundin in 1989. Let's go to Catherine Tappan, who's standing by with Phil Housen.
All right, Liam, thank you very much. Phil, you had some extensive words there with Rasmus when he was drafted. What did you tell him?
I just said enjoy the moment. You know, you only get drafted once, and this is a special time in his life. I was really excited for him, especially for our fans back in Buffalo, but it's a moment that you'll never forget.
You must be excited as well to have him on your team. So what kind of impact does this player have in your lineup next year?
Well, obviously, he's a special player, and we don't want to put too much pressure on him. He's a young man. We're going to put him in the areas to succeed, but obviously, with his talent and his skill level, he's going to really have an impact on our team and our organization.
You were drafted 6th overall in 1982, launching a Hall of Fame career. Does he remind you of yourself? Does he remind you of yourself?
Well, it's funny because this afternoon, you know, the anticipation was building, and I went and watched some more film of him, and I said, boy, this guy is very mobile, can skate, gets up in the rush, defends well, does everything. He checks all the boxes in today's evolution of the game, and I'm really excited to have him on our team.
All right, well, Phil, thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on getting the top pick.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. Fans of Buffalo, no doubt excited, but they know that their team has finished last in the league 3 of the last 5 seasons, haven't been in the playoffs since 2011. We brought up the name Connor McDavid before. He joined the Oilers. They instantly got better. You look at Dahlin and you look at the defensive pairings for the Buffalo Sabres. He steps right in the first pair. How much better does the team get in Buffalo with Dahlin?
When you have a #1 defenseman that can make everybody around him better, I think he's the best defenseman right now, ahead of Rasmus Ristolainen. So when you consider that now you have a guy that can play 20-plus minutes, interesting to hear for Halsey say, put him in areas to succeed. I've never seen him in a situation he couldn't succeed.
Rasmus Dahlin, the #1 overall pick in the 2018 draft. He's with Cap.
All right, Liam, Rasmus, congratulations. The anticipation is finally over. How did it feel to put this jersey on?
Oh my God, it's amazing to be a part of this. It's my dream come true actually. So especially Buffalo Sabres, I heard so great things about the fans and all that kind of stuff. So I just want everything to start, and I'm so excited.
You're the first Swede since Mats Sundin to be drafted #1 overall. How does that make you feel regarding your country?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's everything for me actually. So it's so cool.
Rasmus, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks so much. Dahlin, the #1 overall pick. The Carolina Hurricanes making their way up on the stage. They picked #2. A lot of things are new in Carolina, Bob, and we're expecting the pick to be Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer at this point. The clear consensus, 10 out of 10 scouts surveyed on our draft rankings had Svechnikov as the clear choice at #2. Big 6'2" scoring winger from Russia who played for the Barrie Colts. This should be an obvious choice for the Canes.
Here's Carolina with the pick.
Carolina Hurricanes like to thank the Dallas Stars for their hospitality this week. We'd like to also recognize and thank our fans back in Raleigh at the Raleigh Beer Garden. And here to make our first selection is Drew Dundon.
The Carolina Hurricanes select from the Barrie Colts, Andrei Svechnikov.
So, like Wayne Gretzky, Joe Thornton, John Tavares, Taylor Hall, and Connor McDavid, Svechnikov, the OHL Rookie of the Year. It's some pretty good company.
Yeah, that's pretty good company, I would say. He's going to step right into the NHL. He's played ahead of his age group all the way through. Reminds me so much of Marian Hossa. That hard driving, hounding the puck, the ability to maneuver in tight areas, the ability to score from distance, shake defenders. He's not interested in playing outside the guts of the action. Wants to take it to the cage, wants to drive it there, and when he makes up his mind to do it, almost impossible to stop. Exactly what the Carolina Hurricanes need. He's a difference maker, a big-time offensive player.
Carolina's got a plethora of young defensemen and good defense. What they need is exactly what Craig just described, and this is the player that will answer the need for inside offense. A lot of their offense comes from the perimeter, outside of Justin Williams and Jordan Stahl. Now they got a guy that can really get to the inside with speed, vim, vigor, and vitality. That's what he'll bring to their lineup.
As Russian prospects go, he's highly North Americanized. He's been living in North America since he was 16 years old. He and his mom came over. He played in Muskegon in the United States Hockey League. His mom lived with him there. When he got drafted by the Barrie Colts and went up to Barrie, his mom and Andre got an apartment in Barrie. He's not absolutely fluent and comfortable in speaking and understanding English, but he's well on his way to being that. So this is a player who understands what it takes to play on small ice. There's not going to be a culture shock in terms of living in North America. And his older brother, Evgeny, is a prospect with the Detroit Red Wings, a first-round pick, who's played the last couple of years in the American Hockey League. That's important because there's a perception that a lot of the really talented Russians, if things don't go well, they'll go right back to Russia. Well, there's his older brother showing the way, apprenticing in the American League in Grand Rapids for the Detroit Red Wings. Svechnikov is all in to play in the National Hockey League and North America.
All right, they have a new GM, a new owner, a new head coach, and now a new go-to goal scorer. Coming up next, the Montreal Canadiens will pick third. Dallas, no surprises at the top of the draft. Rasmus Dahlin goes number 1 to the Buffalo Sabres. He's followed by Andrei Svechnikov to the Carolina Hurricanes. But Bob, coming into tonight, you said this draft begins with pick 3.
Yeah, the Montreal Canadiens were entertaining offers on this pick, but really there wasn't a team that was willing to pay a premium to get to that spot. Montreal was thinking they might drop back 2 or 3 spots because they're very interested in Jesperi Kotkaniemi, the big Finnish center that really addresses a positional need. They've also got great scoring wingers to pick from in terms of Brady Tkachuk and Philip Zadina. But they thought maybe they might get a sweetener to drop back and still be able to get Kotkaniemi. At this point, I would suggest Kotkaniemi fills their biggest need, but we'll see what they do here.
And we can talk about need. The next 7 or 8 players, there's a negligible difference, in the next 7 or 8 guys. If you want the center, take them. If you don't, you got a choice of a winger or defense.
Is this the worst pick of the first 10 because of the decision?
This is a pretty tough one because I can tell you right now, Kotkaniemi is probably the organizational need. They need to address at center. But I think Brady Tkachuk's more of an upside type of player for Montreal going forward.
They need a center. Montreal Canadiens are up, about to make their pick. We'll see if they select one.
Thank you, Dallas. Bonsoir. J'aimerais saluer tous les partisans des Canadiens de Montréal au Québec. I'd like to salute our fans back home. To make our selection, Director Amateur Scouting and former Dallas star Shane Shula will make the announcement.
From asset of the Finnish Elite League, Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
So they go with the center, Bob.
Yeah, this guy's rocketed up the charts over the course of the season. Last summer at the Ivan Halinka Under-18 tournament in August, there were a number of scouts I talked to who said they really didn't like Kotkaniemi's game. They thought he was lackadaisical. They thought he was lazy. Then he went and played in the Finnish Elite League, and he played left wing, which is not his natural position. But he did well playing against the men in the Finnish League, but it was still hard to excel. But from the moment he played in the Five Nations Cup in February against his peer group at a Five Nations tournament in Plymouth, Michigan, and then again at the Under-18 World Championships in April, his play kept on going up and up and up. And he dominated the Under-18 World Championships offensively, defensively, 200-foot player. And it started to become apparent at that point that he wasn't an off-the-board pick in the top 5, and he addresses a huge positional need for the Montreal Canadiens.
And that's the big thing. They need center help right now. How much does he help them at center right now?
Oh, I don't think he fits right now, Craig. Maybe you disagree with me, but I don't think he's NHL ready.
I don't disagree with you at all.
I don't think he's NHL. I'll tell you one thing. This is interesting because Craig compares him to Anze Kopitar. It's a very good comparison. In 2005, the Montreal Canadiens took Carey Price with the 5th overall pick. The 11th pick that year was Anze Kopitar. Imagine how things would have been different if the Canadiens, with the 5th pick overall in 2005, had taken Anze Kopitar instead of Carey Price.
There's only one way to get top-line centers. That's to draft them. And they haven't drafted one since 1993 when they got Saku Koivu, a fellow Finn. Bottom line is, this guy is a really good player.
Is he a top-line center?
Yes, he is. He plays the complete elite. He plays the game like Kopitar.
I believe the forecast right now is that he's projected, guaranteed, to be a second-line center in the National Hockey League, but certainly has a chance to move into that. And the way he played at the World Under-18 Championships in April reminded a lot of scouts of the way Alexander Barkov played in his draft year. He's not doesn't have blazing speed, but his skating continues to improve. He's so big, and he plays both sides of the puck extremely well. I think it's a great pick.
And he might be able to play next year. After one full year as a 17-year-old, he doesn't turn 18 till July.
Well, they could use the help, and you mentioned how difficult it is for teams to get centers, and that really the way to do it is through the draft. And you look at Montreal, you got to go back to 1993. And they took a center by the name of Saku Koivu, 21st overall in the draft. As for Erik Karlsson, well, rumors swirling because could be on the move, but you take back to 2008, and the Ottawa Senators traded up to draft an undersized Swedish defenseman, and, well, that has paid off a couple of Norris trophies later. But an interesting moment because end of the season, last home game, Erik Karlsson digs the puck out of the net, and one would wonder, is that it? Is his career done in Ottawa? There's the Senators. They right now, 2.5 minutes to go, decisions to make. Let's bring in Darren Dreger.
Well, Liam, you're right. There's so much speculation around the Ottawa Senators and their captain, Erik Karlsson. I spoke with Pierre Dorian before the start of round one, and he said it was a very quiet day. And he's very excited about the pick that the Ottawa Senators are about to make. But that's not to say that Pierre Dorian isn't in business here tonight or on this weekend. Perhaps it involves Erik Karlsson. If not, they will furnish Erik Karlsson with a contract offer on July 1st. But he has other players in play, if not Karlsson. Perhaps it's Craig Anderson, the veteran goaltender, or another veteran forward in Zach Smith. Liam?
Darren, thanks so much. It seems like pretty much everyone's in play. Ottawa Senators, clearly a team in major transition, a team in turmoil, dysfunctional. What should they do here with the fourth pick?
Well, I would say Philip Zadina. He's ready to play in the National Hockey League next year. They just lost a lot of goals in the trading of Hoffman. Who knows what else happens going out in terms of offense? He's in a top-end scorer. He's a top-end playmaker like David Pastrnak. And so when you're trying to look at what you need, you look at a player like Zadina. And I've mentioned it before. There's a negligible difference between these players here. So when you look at their hole, Zadina fills it perfectly.
If you want a scoring winger, Zadina's your guy. If you want a guy that's going to go in and potentially really alter the complexion and culture of your hockey team, I say Brady Tkachuk.
If you want a guy with a little bit of an edge and a little bit of an attitude, perhaps you're going with Zadina as well, because he told Montreal, if you pass on me and I'm in Ottawa, I will fill Montreal's net.
Well, guess what? I think they're going to pass on him. I wouldn't be surprised if Ottawa goes, well, we go
Montreal
right?
Passed.
Absolutely.
You think Ottawa could pass on him as well?
Ottawa could pass on him as well, because what's going on in Ottawa right now? You've got to affect culture change. Now, you need goal-scoring wingers. They've got Mark Stone, and they might have some of that. They may not have a player like Brady Tkachuk that can change the way they play, although it may not happen immediately, because he could be back at BU next year. He could be in the American League, the NHL, or the OHL. He's got lots of options.
Would Brady Tkachuk make sense to you here, Pierre?
Yeah, he makes a lot of sense to me because of the culture change that Bob talked about. Well, what Craig said is bang on. They need instantaneous offense in Ottawa. So I'm kind of torn here. The one thing I would tell you is Ottawa's got better prospects than people are giving them credit for. Fermenton, Batherson, Colin White, they've got a lot more prospects than people know in Ottawa.
You can't go wrong with Brady Tkachuk. Let's be really clear here.
Clear on that. You cannot.
So the Ottawa Senators up on the stage. Pick is in, and here it is from the Senators.
Before making our selection, we would like to thank the City of Dallas for their hospitality this week. We would also like to acknowledge our fans attending a draft party at Canadian Tire Centre. Les Sénateurs d'Ottawa sont très fiers de choisir. The Ottawa Senators are extremely pleased to select from the Boston U Terriers, Brady Tkachuk.
Brady Tkachuk in 1990, his father Keith drafted 19th overall. He wound up scoring 538 goals. 2 years ago, Keith's son Matthew drafted 6th by Calgary, already making his mark. And now Matt's little brother Brady Tkachuk, goes to the Ottawa Senators.
He's a difference maker. I hear so much about his intangibles. His tangibles are outstanding. He's a real strong skater with physical maturity. It's only going to get that much better. He's got excellent hands, and when you consider where he's at mentally, he's got that too. And yes, the comparable for Brady Tkachuk is big brother Matthew. When you watch those two guys play, I'll tell you what, I've watched them play for a long time, and they play exactly the same. With the same edge, they get the attention of every opponent they're playing versus, and they make every guy they play with that much better, and they help their teams win. That's simply put.
Brady Tkachuk offensively is not as polished as Philip Zadina, not as polished a goal scorer as Andrei Svechnikov. And he only had 9 goals at Boston University, albeit playing older competition than what Zadina and Svechnikov saw in the Canadian Junior Leagues. But he's also a guy who, you said, Craig, brings different elements to the game. And because he went to the World Junior Championship and he really elevated and did a lot in terms of producing offense, both goals and points, and also an agitating influence, he's the guy that turns everybody on their ear in a game. He throws everybody off balance the way that he plays.
So Brady Tkachuk selected. Let's hear from Keith Tkachuk right now, who's with Darren Drake.
All right, Liam, thanks very much. Keith Tkachuk, obviously very excited about Brady going to the Ottawa Senators. You've been down this road before with your older boy, Matthew. Does it feel very similar?
Yeah, it is. I'm just happy for Brady. Brady wants to play hockey. He wants to win, and, you know, finally getting to see him getting some recognition, you know, when it's always been his brother growing up, and, you know, he's a hard-working kid, and Ottawa's going to get, you know, a high-skilled, gritty character guy.
You know, it's the Canadian way in the Tkachuk household, isn't it? I mean, back in the day, you spent a lot of time, obviously, in leading the Winnipeg Jets, and now both boys are playing in Canadian markets. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's pretty strange that it worked out that way, but, you know, Canada's been real good to us. I met my wife in Winnipeg, so Matthew's having a blast in Calgary, and I'm sure Brady's going to love Ottawa.
Congratulations. Enjoy the night, Keith.
Thank you.
Liam?
Proud papa there. We look at the tail of the tape with the Tkachuks, and you look at Keith, 6'2", but he bulked up to 235. Brady, he's got some room. He's got a frame where he can certainly put on some
Don't worry,
size.
he'll be over 210 pretty quick. Here's how good a kid Brady Tkachuk is. Shane Bowers was a 28th overall pick last year by Ottawa. Plays for Ottawa. He came here to support Brady Tkachuk. Today, on his own dime, came here to support Brady.
And Brady Tkachuk right now standing by with Catherine Tapp.
All right, Liam, thank you. I just asked him some bragging rights now, and the family drafted higher than his brother Matthew. But, Brady, you complete the Tkachuk family Canadian lineage. Your dad drafted by Winnipeg. Your brother goes to Calgary. Now you go to Ottawa. How does it feel putting on the Senators sweater?
It was an awesome feeling. I'm shaking right now. It's, you know, all the credit goes to my parents and everybody who's gotten me to where I'm at today.
You said that you want to play in the NHL next season. You're training this summer with Gary Roberts. How soon will you be ready to enter an NHL lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk with, obviously, Ottawa and you know, see what their thoughts, and I'm going to talk with my parents and my advisor to see, you know, what's best for me in the long run. But obviously, it's a huge goal of mine to be in the NHL as quick as possible. But if not, it's another year to develop.
You've had over 100 friends and family join you here this weekend in Dallas, from Boston, from St. Louis. You had a huge party last night with these candy bars, if I can get this on camera here for you. So this has been a lot of hoopla for you. What has this whole experience been like for you?
Well, first things first, that candy bar is fantastic. I had one last night, but no, this whole experience to have all my family and friends, you know, come and support me. It's obviously, you know, so nice to, you know, have them here, but I'm going to be pretty excited to celebrate them later.
All right, Brady, enjoy this one. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks so much. Interesting heading into the draft. Keith summed up his son this way: Brady is my most thoughtful, good-natured kid, but when he gets on the ice, he's a complete lunatic. I guess it's good in a way. So Ottawa uses the pick on Brady Tkachuk, but they use the pick, which is a story in and of itself.
Absolutely. They owe a first-round pick to the Colorado Avalanche. They could have shipped this one off. They decided to keep it. That means next year's Ottawa Senator first-round draft pick is going to the Colorado Avalanche. If the Ottawa Senators are worse next year than they are this year, and keep in mind Erik Karlsson could be traded, keep in mind Brady Tkachuk could still be playing at Boston University this next season, then they owe the first pick next year, and a lot of people think that might be a lottery pick. And I mean, my goodness, Jack Hughes is a franchise #1 center at the #1 slot, so we'll see. Ottawa now has huge motivation not to be the worst team in the league next year or to win next year's lottery.
Now Arizona on the clock, about 30 seconds remaining. They will not get a chance at Brady Tkachuk. His father Keith did play for the Coyotes, so if you're in that at that Arizona desk, your thoughts are what?
My thoughts are simply this. Tim Bernhardt, the director of scouting, he was here with the Dallas Stars for a lot of years, was here in the Stanley Cup year. I know one thing. He's not going to be swayed by position, or he's looking for very specific players. And again, it's a negligible difference between these next guys. Don't be surprised if they take a center here. Barrett Hayton.
So the time has expired. Arizona Coyotes front office and contingent makes their way up on the stage. For the Coyotes, the pick is in here at number 5. Let's see who they select as the newest member of their franchise.
Thank you to the City of Dallas and the Dallas Stars for being tremendous hosts. Hello to our fans at the Wild Horse Pass Casino. Thank you for your support. The Arizona Coyotes are proud to select from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds of the Ontario Hockey League center Barrett Hayton.
So Barrett Hayton, another center. Some pretty lofty comparisons here. We talk about two-way players, 200-foot players. The comparable is Patrice Bergeron.
It is for me, Liam. And I go back to Bergeron's draft year in 2003, watching him play with Acadie Bathurst, and I went back and looked at my notes. And eerily similar were the same notes I had on Barrett Hayton. Right from early on in the season last year, the Lincoln tournament where he was outstanding. Every time you pick up your head, Barrett Hayton's in the right spot on the ice. Exactly like Patrice Bergeron. We talked about Kotkaniemi. Where do you find top-line centers? In the draft. You can't let them go by. It's easier to find wingers than it is to find top-line centers. That's exactly what Barrett Hayton is, and he's a lot higher pick than Patrice Bergeron was.
I wouldn't call this an off-the-board pick, but it's certainly a bold one. We had Barrett Hayton at number 11 on our ranking list. Now, we also pointed out that the first 12 players that we ranked, there was considerable support for each of them as a top 5 pick in this draft. And to your point, Craig, tremendous all-around ability, 200-foot game, tremendous character, all of those things. The question I had from many scouts was, what's his offensive upside? Is he a high-end third-line center? Is he a solid second-line center? Or does he have the offensive ability to be a number 1 center in the National Hockey League? And depending on the answer to that question, depends whether you think he's a top 5, a top 10, or a top 15 guy. Because he's no worse than a top 15 guy. But if you believe he's got the ability to produce a higher level of offense that we saw over the course of this season, then Barrett Hayton's a top 5 pick, and now he is nevertheless.
Well, the Arizona Coyotes certainly believe that he's a top 5 pick. They select him at number 5. Up next with pick 6, the Detroit Red Wings. They're on the clock after this.
Quinn would be one of the best skaters in the draft. He's got the it factor. He wants the puck. He makes things happen with the puck. Got great vision, great hockey sense.
Hughes with a rocket from the point.
He's comfortable with the expectations. He's comfortable with the pressure.
Here's Hughes. Score!
He's had a tremendous year.
Red Wings on the clock. They know a lot about Quinn Hughes, but it's not just the GM. It's the whole organization.
Jeff Blashill obviously coached him at the World Championship this year. Dan Bilesma, who's the new assistant coach in Detroit, coached him at the World Championship. Went to the University of Michigan, still there, playing for Mel Pearson and Brian Wiseman and Billy McCult. But the big thing is, the last guy they took from Michigan, Dylan Larkin, he's turned out pretty well for the Detroit Red Wings, and there's an organizational need for defense there. Clearly an organizational need.
The preference for Detroit going into this draft was a defenseman. But the fact that Philip Zadina has slipped out of the top 5 gives Kenny Holland and his group something to think about. I won't be surprised if they go with a goal-scoring winger, even though the priority was going in was probably more along the lines of a defenseman.
So some tense moments here for Red Wings fans. Their team on the clock. The pick is in for Detroit.
Detroit Red Wings would like to thank the City of Dallas and the Dallas Stars for your hospitality this week. Congratulations to the Washington Capitals on winning the Stanley Cup. The Detroit Red Wings select from Halifax of the Canadian Hockey League, Philip Zadina.
So the wait is over. It didn't last that long for Philip Zadina, but remember, he was a guy that we were talking about at number 3 who told the Montreal Canadiens, if you don't pick me, I'm going to fill your net. Well, you can add the Senators and the Coyotes to that list as well.
Well, he'll be playing against the Senators and the Canadians in their division. The Coyotes only a couple times a year. But Philip Zadina, when I talk about a really well-rounded offensive player, David Pastrnak comes to mind. So he can shoot the puck. Well, let's put a check mark next to that. Lethal from the top of the circles down and inside the circles. That's exactly where Pastrnak has shone in the National Hockey League. And when you talk about the ability to score from multiple areas in the offensive zone, that's where Zadina becomes very difficult to check. And he creates a lot of challenges for defenders. He's also a very good playmaker, and you see that from David Pastrnak. So when you consider the ability to score and create offense from multiple areas in the offensive zone, that's where Zadina is. And for the Detroit Red Wings, they're looking at a player that I think they can really hope to be in their lineup at the beginning of next season.
Well, when you look at Dylan Larkin, you look at Anthony Mantha, and you add a player like Zadina, now you're talking about creating enough offense where you got a chance to compete. That was really a big problem for them. So obviously you understand what Kenny Holland's doing. They've never been the same since Pavel Datsyuk went back to Russia. They've never been the same as a group.
Or when Nick Lidstrom retired.
Well, that's part of it, but we're talking about the offensive part of it.
You know, if you just watch the World Junior Championship this year, or the CHL Prospects game in Guelph in late January, if you were looking at Zadina versus Svechnikov, there was no comparison. Zadina looked like far better player because Svechnikov was using a different role with the Russian team. Zadina just excelled with the checks. Zadina was lights out good at that CHL Prospects game, but nevertheless the scouts bring a lot of different factors in, and Zadina is as good a goal scorer as Svechnikov, and a lot of the Oliver Wahlstrom, those are the guys with the big shots, the big goal scoring ability, pure offense.
So Zadina goes number 6 to Detroit. Of course, last year Nico Hischier was the number 1 overall pick by the New Jersey Devils. Same billet family, Zadina, and before him, Hischier. Right now, Zadina is with Catherine Tappan.
Philip, congratulations on being picked by the Detroit Red Wings. Your coach in the Czech Republic calls you a shark, that all you want to do is put the puck in the back of the net. What makes you such a good goal scorer?
I don't know, probably my shot. I was trying to have the best shot in my league, and I was trying to always working on it. So I've done a good job, but I want to be better every time when I'm on the ice. So.
You're also always looking to improve your wardrobe off the ice as well. We've got some great photos of you looking dapper. We see you right there putting on the Red Wings sweater, but you also take a lot of pride in what you look like off the ice. Why is that important to you?
I love to when I look good. It's saying something about my person, and I just want to be a good person, and if I'm a good person, I look sharp.
And Philip, how soon before we see you in the NHL?
Thank you so much. What did you say?
How soon before we see you on the ice in the NHL? It's a big moment.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully as soon as possible. So, it's going to be hopefully soon.
All right. Philip, thanks so much for joining us. Liam, back up to you.
Catherine, thanks so much. Proud family. Philip Zadina, to piggyback off what Catherine was talking about, told the Toronto Sun his unofficial motto is look good, feel good, play good. And that's going to be the expectation for the Detroit Red Wings. Now Vancouver Canucks, just about a minute and a half left.
They want a defenseman. They want a defenseman. They got a choice between a big defenseman in Noah Dobson, or they got a choice, a smaller, more dynamic defenseman in Quinn Hughes. Won't be surprised if they go with the smaller guy in the American.
And that could be a trend here tonight. We could see smaller defensemen picked.
You know what? Yeah, well, we can. And, I mean, we've seen that happening in the NHL. You got to be able to skate, got to be mobile, make a play with the puck. But what's really interesting, and we talk about, so now we see 2 centers go in the top 5. That wasn't expected, Bob, earlier in the year or in midterm. Even in March, it wasn't expected. So now they're off. So now all these defensemen, we've seen the number 1 guy go, obviously, in Dahlin. Now we're going to see a run here. There's going to be Hughes, there's going to be Dobson, there's going to be Bouchard, and Boqvist now, who was a top 5 candidate earlier in the year, he now becomes interesting in a watch to see where he ends up.
Pierre, if you're with Vancouver right now, your recommendation is?
Quinn Hughes. Just looking at what they've got coming, look at Bo Horvat. They're starting to stabilize. Remember, the Sedins are gone.
Yep.
So now you got to get some electrifying stuff coming up, and Quinn Hughes is one of those guys that can electrify your crowd.
Horvat, Besser, Elias Pettersson, who dominated the Swedish league.
Adam Gaudette.
Yeah, but you got Jonathan Dahlin. Yeah. Guess what? You need some defensemen that can get the puck up the ice. Hughes can do that.
Hughes is the guy, I think.
But they transition from the Sedins, as you mentioned. They do have some building blocks, perhaps cornerstones there, but mostly offensive guys. So perhaps they look defense. They look Quinn Hughes. We'll see. Maybe Noah Dobson. Here's the pick.
We would like to thank the Dallas Stars for their wonderful hospitality this week. Vancouver selects from the University of Michigan, Quinn Hughes.
Okay, Pierre. As he hugs his brother Luke, who's a 14-year-old prospect, his brother Jack, who could go #1 overall next year. Tonight, it belongs to Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is he's going to be able to move the puck tape to tape. He's going to be able to jump in. He's not ready to play in the NHL yet, but he's not far away from playing in the NHL. He just needs to get a little bit more robust.
Just came off playing for Team USA at the Men's World Championships, and that opened a lot of eyes. Everybody talks about, well, you know what? He plays more rover-style defense than actually defense. And people have questioned his defensive ability. And in all the interviews Quinn Hughes was doing, he says, by the way, I was only on for 1 goal against at the Men's World Championship. He's a dynamic skater. Seth Appert, who coaches the U.S. Under-18 program, says Quinn Hughes doesn't defend poorly. He just defends differently. And he's got a dynamic offensive element to his game. The question I would wonder is, where's he going to play next year? Back at Michigan, or does he turn pro and see where he fits in with the Vancouver Canucks, or, if necessary, go to the American Hockey League?
I would hang right at the University of Michigan. I would take the Charlie McAvoy pass. You know, go back. Charlie McAvoy was drafted as a late birthday, went back to BU, and he stepped right into the NHL with that maturity. I think that is the best path for Quinn. And he's a terrific player. You talk about his ability to move. You know, everybody talks about defense. I don't know how to evaluate his defense, Liam, because he had the puck on his stick all the time.
He's a tank. Here's the thing. They have an amazing coaching staff at University of Michigan right now with Mel Pearson, Billy McCall, and Brian Wiseman. He'll continue to grow. He only plays 2 games a week. So what does he need to do? He needs to get stronger. He needs to get a little bigger. That's what's going to happen if he stays at the University of Michigan.
And as we talked about earlier, families, great American hockey families, we'll be back here next year calling his brother's name perhaps #1 overall, Jack Hughes. What a dynamic #1 center he is.
Yeah, Jack Hughes, 17 years old, eligible next year. Many believe he will be that top overall pick. And then Luke Hughes, 14 years old, eligible in the 2022 draft. But here in 2018, it's all about Quinn Hughes. He's with Catherine.
All right, Liam, thank you. Quinn, before this moment, you said your most proud moment on the ice was getting Michigan to the Frozen Four. So where does this rank being drafted by Vancouver?
Yeah, obviously I'm very proud. You know, I've heard a lot of great things about Vancouver, and it's obviously a hockey market. So I'm really excited, and it's a dream come true. Honestly, I don't know what to say right now, so I'm just excited.
You're going to be playing in a Canadian market like your friend and one of your closest friends, Brady Tkachuk, who was drafted just a few moments ago by the Ottawa Senators. What did he say to you when you came up here on that stage?
He just told me he loves me. I love him too. So we spent 2 years together at the program, built it together, and we moved away when we were 15. So it's a young age, and we really got really close. So I'm very happy for him. He's a great player, but a better person. So Ottawa's got a great player in him.
We had your mom on earlier. She's the one responsible for teaching you how to skate. You're known for your prolific skating. So what did that mean to you from a young age being taught by your mother?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have parents that know what they're doing, right? It always makes a difference. So I'm obviously grateful to both of them. My mom knows a lot about the game. So like I said, I'm grateful.
All right, Quinn, congratulations once again. Darren, over to you.
All right, Catherine, thanks very much. We're with Jim Hughes, Quinn's father, and Quinn just talked about going into a Canadian market, and you as a hockey man can appreciate the pressures that go along with that, but that's not a bad thing, is it?
No, we think it's a wonderful thing, and for Brady to go to a Canadian market, and now Quinn grew up in Toronto for almost 11 years. He knows the intensity of a Canadian market. If you want to be a hockey player, why not go to a Canadian market? So we're thrilled with it. I think Jim Benning and John Weisbart tried desperately over the last couple of days to maybe move up a little bit, so I think it's a perfect match.
How do you feel? I mean, there's so much expectation with Jack projected as first overall next year, and then you've got your youngest guy, Luke, around the corner after that.
Well, it's been an amazing journey so far, and there's a lot of work to be done, of course, but Jack has taken all this in. He's watching it closely, and he's here to support his brother, of course. But he's getting a little bit of a head start on a year from now. So, but he's got his feet on the ground, and he's not too far ahead of himself. So we'll just take one day at a time, I think.
All right, Jim. Congratulations.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Quinn Hughes hugging his brother, Luke. His brother Jack. What a 13 months for this kid. 2017 World Under-18 wins gold. 2018 World Junior takes bronze. Michigan to the Frozen Four. 2018 Worlds earns bronze. And then the 7th overall pick.
Well, Chicago Blackhawks up next. Defenseman. Couple of big ones. Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson, the Canadian defenseman. Adam Boqvist, smaller Swedish defenseman. We're getting a run on smaller defensemen. Don't be surprised if we see another one here.
Chicago Blackhawks, we're used to seeing them compete for the Stanley Cup here with an early pick.
On behalf of the Chicago Blackhawks, I'd like to thank the City of Dallas and the Dallas Stars putting on a great event. I'd like to congratulate the Washington Capitals on their Stanley Cup victory. And with our choice, 8th overall, the Blackhawks are proud to select from Brynäs in Sweden, Adam Boqvist.
So, for the second time, a Swedish defenseman already picked here in the NHL draft, Adam Boqvist. Certain comparisons scare people. The one to Erik Karlsson doesn't seem to scare him at all. He seems to embrace it.
Yeah, it doesn't scare him one bit. I mean, he emulates everything about Erik Karlsson, and he has the same daring as Erik Karlsson. He sees a play that maybe nobody else sees, and he's going to try it. And more times than not, he's going to be able to execute on it. Great deception in his game with his hands, with his eyes, looking off opponents and being able to take full advantage of what is right there in front of him. And he can stretch the ice. That ability to open up the ice in all areas, that's what you're looking for in an offensive defenseman. And like Erik Karlsson, the imagination, the creativity, to see things that others don't, and then to be able to make a play. Tell you what, some of those forwards in Chicago are going to love playing with this guy.
And this will be a bit of a passing of the torch because they traded Nicholas Hjalmarsson last summer to the Arizona Coyotes. Duncan Keith did not have a very good season. He's not getting any younger. Brent Seabrook, not getting any younger. Chicago Blackhawks, they need to find a way to replenish their defensive depth. This is a good first step. Very good first step.
It won't surprise me if he signs right away with the Blackhawks because here's what. He's got a contract with Brynäs in the Swedish Elite League next year. He can have that contract exist, go to a National Hockey League camp with the Blackhawks. If they want to sign him because he's a first-round pick, they can supersede his Swedish contract and he can play in the National Hockey League next year, or he could go back to Brynäs. Over the course of this season, he was outstanding last August at the Ivan Halinka Under-18 tournament. He was outstanding at the World Under-18 Championships. In between, he didn't play particularly well. He bounced around. He played in the Swedish Junior League. He's played in the Swedish Junior Second Division and the Elite League. He didn't have a great season, but he had great bookend tournaments.
He's just a hair under 6 feet, and really this is the new NHL, the fast, skillful NHL, where defenders under 6 feet still very valuable. Right now, Catherine Tappan with Joel Quenneville.
All right, Liam, thank you. Coach, you get a pretty solid player there that draws comparisons to Erik Karlsson and Adam Boqvist. How does he fit into the Chicago lineup?
Well, the last couple of years we've been able to pick some defensemen, and I think you can never get enough have enough D. He moves the puck. He's very active in the play, very dynamic in a lot of ways. I think he can help our power play down the road. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does over the summer and going into camp. There's opportunity here on the back end with our team, and it's going to be competitive along the way. But certainly, hey, you got a guy that can move the puck and get involved offensively. Those guys are hard to find.
Well, Coach, 40 years ago, you were drafted in the National Hockey League. I'm going to remind you about that. We've got some great photos of you in your playing days, and somehow you've still managed to have this mustache all these years as well. What do you remember most about these?
It's a great day for everybody involved, and the families and your friends, and it's a special moment. I was fortunate enough to get picked by the Toronto, and being from Windsor was a thrill. Everybody was excited about that opportunity. Beginning in as elite was a special moment. I got to play for a few teams, great organizations, and being a part of it as a coach in these years, it's been a lot of fun, and I've been fortunate along the way to be around some great people and some great teams.
All right, Coach, good luck the rest of the way here at the draft.
Thank you very much.
Liam, back up to you.
Catherine, I think if you dug up his middle school yearbook photo, he'd probably still have that mustache.
Yeah, he does.
What is he looking for in a defenseman?
3 things. He wants a defenseman to get to a puck quick. Then know what decision to make and then execute on it. That's exactly what Adam Boqvist is. And what he needs is understanding that defensive play matters. Joel Quenneville will help him with that.
So will Alfie Samuelson. I agree with that 100%. But the biggest thing is, again, you look at some of the guys that they've lost over time. It's been a problem for them, and now they need to start replenishing. And this is a very, very solid guy to replenish with.
Stay with the original six. Bob, the Rangers, 3 picks here in the first round. The first one coming up right now.
Right now, the best players on the board are Evan Bouchard and Noah Dobson, 2 big Canadian defensemen. I will tell you this. The New York Rangers, Gordy Clark, the chief scout, Nick Bobroff, spent a lot of time in Russia. And there's a Russian still on the board in the top 12 of this draft. His name's Vitaly Kravtsov, a scoring, playmaking winger. I'll be curious to see if they take the plunge on Kravtsov here.
This is a team that's in a mode of rebuild but wants to be competitive at the same time. Who do you see them going with?
Well, I see them going with a defenseman. I think the defensemen are too good to pass on.
Here are the Rangers. Their pick is in.
Thank you, Dallas. And hello to our great fans at the Hulu Theater back at Madison Square Garden. With our first pick tonight, our Director of Player Personnel, Gordy Clark.
New York Rangers select from Tractor Chelyabinsk, Vitaly Kravtsov.
Well, Bob McKenzie, we asked, you answered, and you were right on. Vitaly Kravtsov, the winger out of Russia.
It's not an off-the-board pick per se, but when you take a Russian in the top 10, because the player is not likely to arrive in the National Hockey League for another year or two, a lot of fans don't identify very much with that player, so they're saying, I don't like the pick. It's a foreign concept to me, pardon the pun, especially when there's some big Canadian defensemen available. I can only tell you this, that the Rangers believe this guy's got elite offensive ability. That when you see what guys like Kuznetsov and other Russian skilled players can do, that they firmly believe that this guy has the ability to score and make plays as a first-line winger in the National Hockey League.
But not next year.
Not right
next
now,
year.
contractually, he's not. I think he's got a one-year commitment in the Continental Hockey League before he would be eligible to sign a contract with a National Hockey League team.
Rebuild's kind of an ugly word in New York City. Is this a rebuild pick?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think this is actually a guy that's going to help you long-term for a long time, too. But think back to last year. Elias Anderson, he goes at the 7th pick. Philip Cheeto goes at the 21st pick. They still have in this draft 26 and 28. So they've got plenty of ammunition, and this just helps stockpile it. Those 2 players they took last year, Anderson and Cheeto, those are tremendous, tremendous players.
He's an older player, so if he could get out of his contract to come over, he could play in the NHL next year. He's one of those guys. He's a classic Russian scoring winger. Get the puck on the move. He reminds me so much of James Neal and that ability to skate and also be able to fire that puck and get to the net. So when you talk about James Neal, that's a pretty good
like Neal?
No, but I wouldn't expect him to have that edge.
So Vitaly Kravtsov, the pick for the New York Rangers. He'll be playing for David Quinn. College coaches to the NHL. It had been a while from 82 to 2015, but Dave Hackstall, he broke the ice, made that smooth transition, moving from North Dakota to Philadelphia. Then it was Jim Montgomery, Denver to Dallas, who coached the Stars this season, and David Quinn, who's with Catherine Tappan.
Coach, your first NHL draft here as a head coach of the New York Rangers. Just talk to me about what this experience has been like for you as you get set to build this team.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, obviously, to be able to coach an original 6 team and New York City and where we're at as an organization was such an incredible opportunity. I'm very fortunate.
It's impressive they were able to get you out of Boston and down to New York, but you become the 5th coach to go directly from the NCAA to the NHL. You get this player number 1 in your pick today in the first round. You've got 2 more to go in the first round. What is the goal for the Rangers going forward?
Well, we just want to continue to build and get better, and obviously we made a decision at the trade deadline to go in this direction, and our ultimate goal is to win the Stanley Cup. We want to do it, as quickly as possible, but also in the right way so we can sustain success. So, it's an exciting time for us as an organization.
So Vitaly's your first pick today. What do you like about this player?
Just a lot of hockey sense, a lot of skill. People rave about his character. He was a guy that we've talked an awful lot about over the last month, and we're ecstatic to get him.
All right, Coach, thanks so much for your time. Good luck the rest of the night.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks so much. We move on from the New York Rangers to the Edmonton Oilers. Less than 2 minutes for them to make their selection. Bob, your thoughts on the pick?
Well, I think right from the get-go, they were trying to peddle the pick for a defenseman. So they weren't able to do that to get an established NHL defenseman, so they'll do the next best thing. They'll take a defenseman. And right now it's a pretty obvious choice. You either go with Noah Dobson, who's number 6 on our list, Acadie Bathurst Titan, a big, strong two-way defenseman, or you go with our number 7 ranked player, Evan Bouchard from the London Knights, who's arguably the best passer in the draft. I won't be surprised if they lean towards Bouchard.
There is no way the Edmonton Oilers felt at number 10 that they were going to be faced with a decision on a right-shot defenseman, which is exactly what they need. And again, I go back to centers. If you don't draft them, you're not getting them. I mean, the bottom line, just look what that cost them in trading Taylor Hall or to acquire Adam Larson. It cost them the MVP of the National Hockey League, Taylor Hall. You better draft a right-shot defenseman.
We showed the head coach and the GM, got to be feeling the heat. This is a team that seriously regressed this year. They need to step right back into the things, make the playoffs next year. One of those two defensemen help them do that?
I do. I think Evan Bouchard, if he's drafted, he's one of those guys right-hand shot. He fits in pretty well. I think he's big enough. He's athletic enough. He handles the puck well enough. He could fit in if they want to push. The guy there that I think has made significant progress in Edmonton is Darnell Nurse. Darnell's one of the guys that's done a tremendous job growing his brand in the league, and I think Bouchard could do the very same thing.
He was a top 10 pick of the Edmonton Oilers in 2013, Darnell Nurse. He went number 7. This year, the Oilers picking at number 10, and that pick is in. They're up on the stage. Here it is.
And we've watched Daryl Cates' son grow up right in front of our eyes.
On behalf of the Edmonton Oilers organization, we wish to thank the City of Dallas and the Dallas Stars for their great hospitality. Thank you. And with our selection in the first round, we're proud to select from the London Knights, Evan Bouchard.
So, Evan Bouchard, strong player, 6'2", just shy of 200 pounds, racked up 14 pull-ups at the Combine, also considered a strong leader. What do you see in him?
What I see in him for the Edmonton Oilers is he checks an enormous amount of boxes. So let me see. Right shot defenseman. Plays like John Carlson. So what do those guys do? They're able to make the plays in the offensive zone. They have that full vision of where the opportunities are. And because they're so good with the puck, they can pass and also be a threat with their shots because defenders have to close on them. The ability to pass the puck from your own zone up the ice and to get it to players on the move. You know, they got a guy that moves pretty well there in Edmonton by the name of Connor McDavid. So he'll be happy to be able to get the puck on his stick. And he's got tremendous poise, that ability to understand how to make plays. So checking the boxes, right shot defenseman, offensive player, power play. Get the puck out of your own zone. And by the way, Connor McDavid now, for opponents, he's going to have the puck on his stick a lot more often. That's a nice little thing to think about.
A couple of numbers to keep in mind here with Evan Bouchard, the second Canadian going in the draft after Barrett Hayton. Only 2 Canadians in the top 10. The other thing worth noting, Evan Bouchard is a late 1999 birth date. Of the top 10 picks so far, 5 of them are late 1999 birth dates, so technically a year older. Evan Bouchard played 3 full years in the Ontario Hockey League and put up some spectacular offensive numbers in that regard. So interesting to see if that being a little bit older might give him an opportunity to play as early as next season in the National Hockey League.
Evan Bouchard goes to the Edmonton Oilers at pick 10. Coming up next, it's the New York Islanders with picks 11 and 12.
Network.
Rasmus Dahlin, the generational talent, the unquestioned number 1 pick, goes top pick to the Buffalo Sabres. He's the most hyped, the most heralded defensive pick since this man, Dennis Potvin, selected by the New York Islanders with the top overall pick in 1973. That worked out pretty well for the New York Islanders. They're on the clock right now. Back-to-back picks, 11 and 12. It's a team definitely in transition. A new man making decisions in Lou Lamoriello, a new head coach in Barry Trotz. They have the Rookie of the Year. Uncertainty surrounding the face of their franchise in John Tavares, but the pick here is in.
On behalf of the New York Islanders, I'd like to thank the Dallas Stars for their hospitality this weekend. Also like to acknowledge all of our passionate fans back on Long Island. And on behalf of the Islanders, proud to select from the USA Hockey National Development Team Program, Oliver Wahlstrom.
Okay, I'm just going to do a quick history lesson. In 1989, Lou Lamoriello was the general manager of the New Jersey Devils. They drafted, with the 5th pick overall, Billy Guerin. Oliver Wahlstrom is this generation's version of Billy Guerin, the way he plays the game. This is a very good pick.
I think he's a better goal scorer than Billy Guerin. I think he's the best goal scorer in the draft. And, you consider how he sets himself up. Yeah, okay, Alexander Ovechkin's the best, but that's his office, and Wahlstrom sets up. He pays rent to Ovechkin at the beginning of his career, but he can score from there. Like Brock Besser, another former first-round pick by the Vancouver Canucks, he's got the deadly accuracy. But this is where it becomes great for the Islanders. That ability to score in multiple plays on the ice places, and that great release, the great Mike Bossy. He's got the accuracy and of a Besser. He's got the unbelievable release of Bossy. This is an outstanding goal scorer.
And he played on that top line with the U.S. Under-18 program with Jack Hughes in the middle, Joel Farabee on the other wing. You mentioned it, Craig, maybe the best shot in the draft, a natural goal scorer. But what Seth Appert, the head coach of the U.S. Under-18 program, really likes about him is how he's constantly trying to get better at the things he's not good at, playing without the puck, become a more dogged player, score goals more ways, go to the dirty areas to score goals, and not just rely on the shot from the top of the circles. And obviously, everybody knows him for the YouTube sensation that he was.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, viral video. Back when he was 9 years old in Boston at TD Garden, makes it look very, very easy. So this guy becomes an overnight internet star, and 9 years later gets to hear his name called at the NHL draft.
That's wearing Jeremy Roenick's 97.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The goalie doesn't know what to do. He can't find the puck. It's not even a fair fight here.
He's a player who clearly had confidence when he was young. He has that confidence right now. In terms of goal scorers, he says he's right up there with the best in this draft. And right now, he's next to Catherine Tappan.
All right, Liam, Oliver, congratulations. You're now a member of the New York Islanders organization. How did it feel to put that sweater on?
Oh, I don't even know where to start. I'm just so thankful to be in this position. And, the Islanders is an unbelievable organization. And, I'll be around New York, the best city. So I'm so happy. I'm ecstatic. So
you've been compared to Alex Ovechkin. You've been compared to Patrick Laine. How would you compare yourself?
Yeah, I'm a big, strong power forward. I love shooting. I love scoring goals. And, Ovechkin, he's my childhood hero. And, hopefully someday I can play against him. So.
Well, you're getting his former coach now. Barry Trotz won the Stanley Cup 2 weeks ago. You've got a general manager in Lou Lamoriello who's won a couple Stanley Cups as well. What does that tell you about where this organization is headed?
I'm so pumped. I'm excited. They got a lot of experience, and they got guys that win Stanley Cups in this team, and I'm just so excited. I can't wait.
We also just showed a pretty flair goal from you when you were 9-year-old before the Boston Bruins game, so maybe we'll see a little bit of that next year on the ice.
Oh, maybe. Who knows? Maybe. But yeah.
Right. Oliver, congrats. Thanks so much. Liam?
Big smile from Oliver Wahlstrom. So far, players from 6 different countries have been selected, but 3 Americans have been selected here. Oliver Wahlstrom, drafted 11th by the New York Islanders. So, Islanders fans, excited, happy about the future, but there's uncertainty with John Tavares. We bring in Darren Dreger for more on this because July 1st is looming, Darren.
Liam, Lou Lamoriello is focused on the draft here tonight in Dallas, and he'll continue tomorrow, but it could be a big weekend organizationally because of John Tavares. Now, we shouldn't expect any news tonight from the Tavares camp, but he's got to make a decision as to whether or not he is going to at least consider going into the interview period and looking at some of the presentations made by other clubs. That window opens on Sunday. The expectation is he will make that decision as early as tomorrow. If he opts to at least entertain the notion of visiting with these clubs, the expectation is that John Tavares will invite as many as 5 teams to the CAA sports offices in Los Angeles early next week to consider the option. But know this, John Tavares is priority 1 for Lou Lamoriello. No question about that, Liam.
All right, Darren. Bob?
I don't know if John Tavares will fall back into Lou Lamoriello's lap, but I will tell you this. I can't believe Noah Dobson fell outside the top 10. I just can't even imagine that he's not the most obvious choice here. Number 6 on our big board, and for the Islanders to potentially get this guy at this opportunity, that would be found money.
Huge, and it addresses a major organizational need for the New York Islanders. Defensive depth, and then they can start addressing their goaltending. But they definitely need defense.
Yeah, no doubt. Worst defensive team in the league last year. The Islanders certainly need some help on the blue line. They need some help in net as well.
Islanders will select from Acadie Bathurst defenseman Noah Dobson.
Well, there it is, Bob. Your found money in Noah Dobson.
Well, and here's the thing. When you're ranked number 6 on our list, and some scouts have you in the top 5 of the draft, and then you don't go until 12th overall, and all these teams pass on you, suddenly you start to get stained a little bit, and people say, what's wrong with it? There must be something wrong here. You know what it boils down to? Talked about this before the draft. It only takes one. It only takes one team to like one player better than Noah Dobson, and suddenly, boom. And then it takes another team, only one, and then you start to slide. And it doesn't reflect poorly on the player. He's still the same great player that he was. And this guy, I mean, 6'3", and a way above average skater, and a tremendous offensive ability, creativity, vision, and ability to play without the puck. This guy's a great pick.
And he's a player who says he models his game after Seth Jones. You see that as a reasonable comparison?
Absolutely, I do. And, you know, when you consider Dobson's ability to move the puck up the ice, and I heard Jacob Trouba describe Seth Jones as a one-man breakout. And Dobson has that ability with one pass or with a skating to burst ahead and get into that open ice. It's more than an apt comparison. And for the New York Islanders, this is a terrific pick. But, Bob, just back to your point, though, I mean, we talked about it. After pick 2, there was a negligible difference between the next 8, 9 guys. There really was.
Well, buckle up, because it's going to get even crazier from here on in.
So the Islanders pick back-to-back at 11 and then 12. Here's Gary Bettman.
But it's Dallas. The 13th selection in the 2018 NHL Draft belongs to the Dallas Stars.
I think. Bob.
So Gary Bettman gets a warm reception here in Dallas. But before we get their pick, let's go to Catherine Tappan, who's with Lou Lamoriello of the Islanders.
All right, Liam, thank you. Lou, you just had the 11 and 12 picks. You get Dobson and you get Wallstrom. You get a prolific goal scorer and a defenseman. How do they shape into the mold of what you want to achieve here today?
Well, as you know, we're trying to get as many prospects as we can, but I allow the scouts that have been there to pick, and they did a great job. So we're just delighted the 2 players that we got, a good offensive player and a good-sized defenseman. So.
Well, all Islanders fans are, of course, centering their attention on John Tavares and the future of him with this organization. Can you provide any updates on the conversations you've had with him in his camp?
No, I wish I could, but he's such an important part of the organization, so hopefully everything will work out.
And Lou, how important was it to you yesterday announcing that Barry Trotz would be your new head coach? How important was it for you to get that secured before this weekend?
I don't think that I could emphasize how important that was, to be able to get a man who has so much experience, so much success, and more important, a communicator. That's what you need today in this game with the young people that are coming in, so we're ecstatic.
Lou, thanks so much. Good luck the rest of this round. Liam?
Catherine, thanks. Lou says he and the Islanders are excited. Dallas Stars are excited right now. They're on the clock. Just about a minute and a half remaining for them to make the pick. 12 picks have been made. And Bob, your first 12, all off the board.
Yeah, they didn't go in order, though, so I got work to do.
I didn't provide that detail, but your honesty deserves some reward.
Well, it's always nice that your first 12, and those first 12, all of them had legitimate top 5 capabilities. There wasn't, every one of them got at least one vote from our panel of 10 scouts as a top 5 consideration in the draft. So to Craig's point, after number 2, down to 12, almost interchangeable parts.
That was 2 to 12. How much does it open up now?
Massively. Like, massively. It opens up as big as Dallas considers themselves to be. The big D. I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting now, because this is where teams just dial in and say, we're taking the guy we want, and let's get after it.
Fans here in Dallas very excited to see who the next member of their organization will be. The Dallas Stars front office up on the stage.
Bob.
you know that Jamie and being selected in the NHL entry draft is both an honor and a privilege, whether picked first overall or 129th. With that said, to make our selection, I would like to introduce the first overall pick from the 1988 entry draft and the 129th pick from the 2007 draft. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Modano and Jamie Benn.
It's good to be back in Big D. Scary to think it's been 30 years since 1988 came around, and it's been a wonderful trip, a great experience. This night tonight was one of the fondest memories I've ever had in my life, and I hope all the kids enjoy it, absorb it. It's a great feeling. And being up on the stage, I know, Jamie, you didn't have a chance to be up on the stage.
They definitely don't let the fifth rounders come up on stage, but it's a pleasure to be up here with you.
Well, it goes to show you prove you don't have to be a first rounder to win an Art Ross trophy.
I'll trade that Art Ross trophy that me and my teammates won for that Stanley Cup banner any day.
Well, without further ado, I'll let you have your moment on the stage and announce the Stars' first pick.
With the 13th pick of the 2018 NHL entry draft, the Dallas Stars are proud to select from the Flint of the OHL, Ty Dellandrea.
So, Jamie Benn, the 129th pick, gives you Dallas's pick here at 13. Bob, you had him at 23.
Number 23. 6 of the 10 scouts had him in the first round. Some had him dropping out. But 3 of those 6 scouts that had him in the first round had him in the top 17. So it's not a hugely off-the-board pick. I will say this. In the name of Bob Gainey and Ken Hitchcock and Craig Button and Jamie Benn, this kid is a hockey player. Now, they're all hockey players, okay? But a hockey player is somebody who has intense humility, intense ability, and just shows up every day to be his best self. I saw this kid play as a 15-year-old for the first time. My son's the general manager of the Kitchener Rangers. I went out on an OHL minor midget scouting trip, and I saw this kid play for the Central Ontario Wolves. And I was blown away by how hard he works with and without the puck. Just an amazing two-way hockey player with some high-end offense.
Greg, you've been name-dropped by Bob McKenzie, so the floor is yours.
I'll take it. I'll listen. Ty Dellandrea, nobody in this draft did more with less. Flint wasn't a very good team. Then they traded all their good players. And all he did was continue to play. I absolutely love him. I think that he's got every element to be a really good key player on championship teams. And he's one of my man crushes. I have no hesitancy in saying that. He is such a great competitor. You watch the games. You're watching a guy play on a team you'd never know the score of the game if you were watching him play.
So he's got that compete level. Dallas Stars fans here, very excited. Maybe they would have been excited with whatever Jamie Benn said because they were so pumped up to see him and Mike Modano share the stage. How soon might they see him make an impact?
I would say 2 years. I think he needs 2 years. Go and play in the World Junior Tournament. Try to get to your very best playing against your peer group in your age group and then go from there. But when you're considering what he's got, trust me, he did not have a lot to work with in Flint. He has so much potential.
Definitely needs more time, needs to get physically stronger, especially the way he plays the game. He almost plays too hard for his current size and stature, and that he needs to get bigger and he needs to get stronger. And he might not be what you would call an elite offensive guy. He's not going to be a prototypical number one center that puts up 80 or 100 points. But in terms of playing a strong two-way game, to play some high-end offense and to give it his all as every shift, unbelievable character and hard work, great two-way hockey player.
So, bit of a bold pick by the hometown team. Their general manager, Jim Nill, is with Catherine.
All right, Liam, thank you very much. Jim, you get Ty Dellandrea, a player that went from 76 to 25 in Central Scouting rankings. What solidified it for you?
I think it was his development during the season. You know, he played on a team that had a tough year, and he was the leader of that team, and every night, brought it every night. And then when he got to go to the under-18s and he played with some better players, he really blossomed. And we just think there's lots of potential there.
Speaking of lots of potential, the Dallas Stars haven't made the playoffs in the last 2 seasons. What is it going to take for you to get this team back in playoff position?
Well, you know, we've got a new coach coming in, and I know he's going to play an upbeat style, and you know, we got to get healthy again, and you know, that's not an excuse, but we have to we got to play Dallas Stars hockey. We got to play fast, and we got to play hard.
You guys are hosting the draft here this weekend, and you bring out the heavy hitters and Mike Modano and Jamie Benn. What did that moment mean to you guys and your fan base here?
Well, it's special. You know, they're both they're great. They're both great players, but they're great people too, and they kind of solidify what our team is.
All right, Jim, thanks so much. Good luck going forward the rest of the draft.
Great. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Liam?
Catherine, when we move forward in the draft, the Philadelphia Flyers, under 2 minutes remaining for them to make their pick. Last year, they were a big winner at the draft lottery. They moved up to the second selection. They took Nolan Patrick, who many considered to be, for a long time, the top overall prospect. And late in the season, he really came on for the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, you have the Flyers this year, drafting at 14. Where do you see them go?
Okay, can I just go back to last year?
Please.
They also traded up to get Morgan Frost, an elite offensive player from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and he was the leading scorer in the Ontario Hockey League this year. So when you consider what they did, I mean, Ron Hextall, he took German Rupsov a couple of years ago, a Russian. He traded up to get Morgan Frost. You know, people would say, oh boy, that was a reach on Morgan Frost. No, it wasn't. They've done a fantastic job in drafting. And more than that, they've done a fantastic job in being patient with their players. Nolan Patrick was terrific as his season went on. This is going to be a player that I fully believe will need a time to develop, but one, if you look at their record, will turn out to be a real good contributor.
Flyers in a position to give people time.
Absolutely, and one of the things is they're one of 2 teams in the East really trending up because of what Craig's talked about, their development and also their drafting. Boston's the other one. So they're both very similar in terms of how they've gone about their business. But I think Philadelphia's in a very, very good position going forward. And look, they've got 2 picks in the first round. They've got another one coming up at 19. So they're going to be adding a lot of depth to this organization.
Finished with 98 points. That was good for third in the Metro. Lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Penguins, the Philadelphia Flyers. Here, picking at number 14. Up on the stage, the decision has been made. The pick is in, and we will hear it from Philly.
Philadelphia selects from the U.S. National Team Development Program, Joel Farabee.
So they select Joel Farabee, winger, American. Favorite players, Patrick Kane, Alexander Ovechkin, and a player who's committed to BU.
I said this before the draft. I really felt that Joel Farabee would end up being a better player than a couple players or more than that selected in front of him. He is a player that's like Jake Gensel. And by that, there's not a lot of flash and dash. He's exceptionally smart. He understands how to play with elite level players and not only take advantage of what they do, also contribute to their game. He can move all through your lineup. He can play up, he can play back, he can penalty kill, and when he penalty kills, he's a dangerous offensive threat. He's got a lot of physical maturity in front of him, and we know that. But everything you think that translates to the NHL, the exceptional IQ, the hands, and the skating, he's got a real opportunity to be that player that plays with really good players.
Played on that line with Oliver Wahlstrom and Jack Hughes, the number 1 line on the U.S. Under-18 program. Head coach Seth Appert describes him as good a 200-foot player as you will find at age 17. He'll have an opportunity to go to Boston University, find more offense, and take some time to develop. Afford says he used to get frustrated because when he was showing the team clips of all the right things to do when you don't have the puck, he kept on showing Farabee too much, and he was starting to get to be teacher's pet, so he said, okay, I got to back off here, because he always makes the right play defensively.
Going to Boston University, going to play for the new coach, Albie O'Connell, and also Paul Pearl, who they just took from Harvard University. So he's going into a really structured environment at BU. I think it will only help him produce, and this is I think, a solid pick for the Philadelphia Flyers. And you see him here scoring a natural hat trick versus a Waterloo Blackhawks.
I was at that game.
More on that in a second. For now, though, Joel Farabee's with Cap.
Joel, you pride yourself on delivering in big moments. How big is this moment today, putting on the Flyers jersey?
I mean, it's awesome. I really don't even have any words right now, just kind of soaking it in. But, just honored to be part of their organization. It's a really special time for me and my family, and just to share with them is really cool. So it's awesome.
You've compared yourself on the ice to Jake Gensel of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So how do you feel about now potentially facing him in this storied rivalry between the Flyers and the Pens?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. He's someone I definitely look up to. He's a really good player. But, now we're rivals, so that'll be pretty cool.
You're going to continue to develop your game at Boston University. What more do you think you need to improve on in order to make it to the NHL level?
Definitely put on some weight. I think that's definitely one. And, just keep working on playing like a bigger role along with the weight. So, yeah, I'll definitely do that at college.
And, Joel, how has this whole draft experience been like for you and your family?
It's been unreal. The city of Dallas has been awesome. It was a little nerve-wracking up until this point, but it's nice to see it kind of pay off. So it's been really special.
Congratulations on becoming a member of the Flyers, Joel.
Thank you so much.
Liam?
Well, speaking from experience, I can tell you that college is a good place to go if you want to put on weight. The lowest weight in the draft, 162 pounds. Lowest body fat, 7.3%. But this big night for American prospects continues. The fourth American chosen here. That's tied with Canada for the most so far in this draft. But it's been a heavily international draft. First 6 picks, 6 different countries here. Biggest takeaway so far?
The biggest takeaway, really, we understood through the first 11, 12 picks. We had a real clear identification of who the names were. We didn't know where they were going to go exactly, and we saw that. But now we're looking now to a wide open field. Farabee's not wide open, but now we start getting into the next pick could be any of 5 players.
Talent-wise, pure talent, best player left available. Is it Ryan Merkley?
Yeah, no question about it.
Talented, yeah. Do I think he's got any shot of going in this next little bit? I'd be really, really surprised.
But he is the most talented player. And the reason he's not going in this pick, and the reason he hasn't gone there, he's got top 10 talent, top 5 talent. It's because of his playing attitude. His playing attitude is subpar. It's not his skills that anybody's concerned about. It's that playing attitude. And quite frankly, it's really poor. So if he can improve upon that, his skill will rise to the top. If he doesn't, he might be having a career in Europe.
The big story of this draft so far to me is how the 2 centers worked their way into the elite end of the draft. 2 centers in the top 5. For much of the year, there were no centers at the top of this draft, and 2 of them got picked in the top 5.
Florida Panthers, it's been a busy week for them. Trade for Mike Hoffman with the San Jose Sharks after the Sharks acquired him from Ottawa. So, member of the Sharks very briefly, now a member of the Florida Panthers. Bob.
Our best available, Ty Smith, the Canadian defenseman, Joe Veleno, a Canadian center, and Grigory Denisenko, a Russian winger. Any one of those 3 guys at this point of the draft would be a great pick for Del Talon and the Florida Panthers. They love goal scoring. We'll see if they go for it.
Few options for Florida. Here's the pick.
2 months ago, we lost an icon, a legend in the game, and the original Panther, Hall of Famer, Mr. Bill Torrey. Mr. Torrey had more dignity and class. He was a true gentleman. We sorely miss him. We think of him every day. And in his honor, the Florida Panthers select from Yaroslava, Grigory Denisenko.
So Grigory Denisenko from Russia. Now, through a translator, he had this amazing quote about his game, about wanting to play fast, play creative, that he enjoys the pretty moments that end up happening because of that creativity. He likes to watch imaginative plays. He likes the magical fairy tale-esque shots because you need to make a show of the game.
Who does this guy think he is? Tolstoy? It's unbelievable.
Well,
but I'll tell you
think?
what, I do. I think he's got all those qualities. Nikita Kucherov immediately came to mind when I saw him play 2 years ago. That ability to skate by players. A perfect score in his skating by European Central Scouting, a rarity. But that ability to use that skating to get open. And like Kucherov, when you're moving into areas, it's that quick shot. It's that ability to quickly take advantage. And Denisenko has that. When you think about Barkov, Henrik Borgstrom coming, Bob, you look at a player that on the wing can fit in very nicely.
And as Carl the Greenskeeper said of the Dalai Lama, big hitter. He's a big hitter. He's, you know what? You look at his size, the dimensions, 5'11", 172 pounds. This guy he's a hard-edged physical hockey player. In addition to the Russian skill and the ability to score goals, he loves the open ice hit. He crosses the line regularly. He got suspended in the KHL. A lot of the coaches in Russia think he's too aggressive. In North America, they love that aggression, and that's a big part of his game. That he crosses the line in a good way is the way one scout put it to me.
Grigory Denisenko goes to the Florida Panthers. Rasmus Dahlin was the #1 pick to the Buffalo Sabres. Our coverage of the 2018 draft continues from Dallas after this. After finishing dead last in the NHL with 48 points a couple seasons ago, they made a massive turnaround. They made the playoffs, and they've already made a trade today. Let's go to Darren Dreger.
Yeah, you're right. Joe Sakic pulling the trigger, acquiring the goaltender Philip Grubauer and veteran defenseman Brooks Orpik. There's some speculation that Sakic may want to move the veteran D-man to bring back a pick or create a bit more space for himself as well. As for the Washington Capitals, they get a second-round pick, 47th overall, but more importantly than the draft pick, in getting in return for Grubauer and Brooks Orpik, likely the cap space and moving out the money as they try and keep John Carlson in the fold for the Washington Capitals, guys.
Darren, thanks so much. Show the clock ticking down, obviously. Some incentive to create cap space for John Carlson, but what does this tell you about Colorado?
Well, it tells you that they have to have concerns about Varlamov. And what you don't want to do is run yourself into a problem because your goaltender didn't heal as well as you thought or as fast as you thought. And now you're relying on somebody inexperienced or not confident enough. I think it's a big, significant move for the Avalanche.
No question about it. The biggest thing that we found out about this team now, they are a team on the rise. The Matt Duchene deal really helped solidify the Colorado Avalanche's future. They got a lot of real positive things going on.
Figuratively,
there.
A team on the rise.
Absolutely.
Literally, a team that is still sitting with the clock at 0, Bob, and no pick in.
Yeah, that's a good question there. Why is that happening? We don't know yet. Someone just saw Brian McClellan from the Washington Capitals on the phone a moment ago. We'll see if anything comes up here.
So, Colorado Avalanche.
They were ready to pick at 4, and they're not ready to pick at 16.
By the way, on the Avalanche
pick.
acquisition of Brooks Orpik from the Washington Capitals, a part of that deal, the expectation is they're going to move him along. That if there's another team that's interested in him or a potential buyout or put him in a position somewhere where he might fit better than on a team like the Colorado Avalanche, that seems to be the sense anyway.
So, Avalanche up, going to make their way to the stage. The pick is in. Now, as they make their way to the stage, and you look at this Avalanche team, they address potentially a need at goaltender. But I mentioned, the enormous move that this team made from one year to the next year. Nathan MacKinnon, a huge part of that. Where else does this team need to improve?
I think they need some more offense behind that big line of MacKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. Take some of the pressure off. We saw what happened with Washington. We saw with the good teams. Pressure off your top players to add more scoring helps you go further in the playoffs.
Pierre, we talked about the Oilers, a team that made a move into the playoffs, then regressed. How does Colorado avoid that?
Well, I think one of the things they have is they've got tremendous organizational depth now that they didn't have before. That helps. There's confidence in the coaching message, and they believe in the general manager.
On behalf of the Colorado Avalanche, we want to thank the City of Dallas and the Dallas Stars organization for your hospitality. We're proud to select from the Czech Republic, Martin.
Interesting pick for the Colorado Avalanche. Martin Kaut went to the NHL Combine, and as part of his medical screening at the NHL Combine, he was diagnosed with a congenital heart condition. I believe it's known as Wolff-Parkinson White syndrome, WPW, which is a rapid heartbeat. And it doesn't need to be a serious condition. It's quite often easily fixed with a performance called an ablation. But in any case, initially it triggered some alarms because he wasn't able to do any of the physical testing there. But he saw specialists in Prague in the Czech Republic and had the procedure done to correct it. And then after the fact, the doctors in the Czech Republic actually said, you know what, we don't actually believe he had the condition, but nevertheless, it's a good precaution to do the procedure that they did. He's a very good two-way winger. Plays the game hard, not high-end offense, but works both ends of the ice extremely well.
We talked about Colorado, having some backup offense. He's not a front-line scorer. Playing behind Rantanen, that's the spot where he can really take advantage of his skills. Add offense, play on the power play. But when you don't have to play against the opponent's best defenseman, Rantanen will take over that, but it takes the pressure off of some of those top offensive players. So it's a nice addition to their forward group in Colorado.
From the same hometown as Dominik Hasek. How could you go wrong? Pardubice.
Well, if he can have the same career as Dominik Hasek, they're counting on him to do the opposite of what Hasek did.
And this pick is right in line with our rankings. Number 16 on our list was Martin Kaut. He goes number 16, same as Denisenko, who was number 15 on our list, and he went 15th.
Next year at the NHL Draft in 2019, Bob will take over the role of selecting for every team because he knows who's going and who should go.
I think he's prepared right now.
Yeah.
So they take Martin Kaut here, but earlier the news that Colorado swings the trade with the Washington Capitals. They receive Brooks Orbeck, who may be moved. They receive Phil Grubauer. And then the Capitals receive a second-round pick, and they get Capperley potentially to help them re-sign John Carlson. We'll continue with our coverage of the 2018 NHL Draft right after this with the Devils. Back in Dallas, the Devils on the clock about to make their selection at number 17. So, Bob, we've made the turn here in the first round, and we haven't had a single first-round selection be traded.
No, we may not see that. And mind you, flipping, flopping later. But, I mean, the Carlson trade never materialized, probably not going to tonight. Kovalchuk didn't sign with anybody yet. So there's a lot of balls in the air, so to speak.
Here are the Devils at 17.
The New Jersey Devils want to thank the city of Dallas, Dallas Stars ownership. Also want to send our congratulations to Ted Leonsis, Dick Patrick, and the Washington Capitals on the Stanley Cup. And also share our sympathy and support for the community of Humboldt. With the first selection in the 2018 entry draft, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select Ty Smith.
Fifth Canadian selected, but again, another sub-6-foot defenseman.
Yeah, but he can wheel. He can absolutely wheel. He can do a lot of things. He was a first overall pick in the Western Hockey League by the Spokane Chiefs. He comes with very high pedigree, winning attitude. The New Jersey Devils last year at the World Junior had 7 players playing in it. They're one of the stronger organizations outside of the National Hockey League in terms of prospects. They're not going to have to rush this player, can take their time. They acquired Sami Vatanen last year. They have a young group of defensemen coming. I think this is a smart pick by New Jersey.
He's a player that Ray Shiro, that reminds me of a player Ray Shiro had in Pittsburgh, Alex Kolodowski. He's not going to be a high-end offensive player, but when the puck's on his stick, good decisions happen. He's able to move the puck out of the zone. One of the big things for defenders is being able to have that leverage. So he's got lots of room to physically mature, and he's going to need that. But when he's on the ice, coaches always have a sense of confidence that the right play is going to get made.
He put up huge offensive numbers in the Western Hockey League for the Spokane Chiefs. There's some question as to whether he'll be able to duplicate the offensive numbers, being a high-end offensive contributor at the National Hockey League level. But the feeling is he's too smart and he's too skilled not to find a way to impact the game, although not necessarily in terms of putting up big points. He doesn't have a heavy shot from the point on the power play. He runs a power play in junior hockey. It might be a second power play guy in the National Hockey League. But again, the smarts, the skills. One of the comparables that a number of scouts I talked to said Thomas Hickey, New York Islanders. Undersized guy, smart at both ends of the ice, finds a way to get things done, but not a lot of wow factor in the game.
One of the things that's always impressed me about Ty is when he makes a mistake, he doesn't go and compound it. He just settles back into the next play. I think that's a real essential quality for a defenseman.
And didn't he bounce back from the Prospects game? Yep. I think he was -5 in the CHL Prospects game. It was a disastrous night for him, but you know what? He just parked it and moved on.
And his course, he was like 9%.
And he's the third D-man under 6 feet to be drafted here tonight. The Prospects here were asked to name their ultimate team player. 3 of them, said Ty Smith, the only multiple vote getter. He's with Catherine.
Ty, you went #1 overall 3 years ago at the WHL draft. You get number 17 today at the NHL draft. What did it feel like to put that Devils sweater on?
That's pretty special. I mean, growing up, you watch hockey, and I kind of watch the draft every year, ever since I was a kid. And I mean, watch all the guys do it in the first round, and it's kind of like a dream come true today.
Ty, we asked a number of players at the Combine who the ultimate team player is in this draft, and the only repeat answer we got was your name. Why is that important to you?
It means a lot. I think your teammates are kind of guys who see the real you, I guess, in the dressing room. I mean, guys kind of tend to act different around adults and other people like that. So I guess your teammates kind of can tell a lot about a guy, I guess.
Well, Ty, congratulations to you and good luck.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. So that was the Devils pick at 17. 6 defensemen already taken here in 2018. Perhaps the most impressive defensive draft since 2008, which was just star-studded.
Yeah, a couple Stanley Cups, some Norris trophies amongst multiple players. You know, it's a pretty good group. I mean, you look at it, and you look at the Pietrangelo, the Doughty, the Carlson. Both Carlsons, as a matter of fact. I mean, it's an impressive list of defenders.
Take the best Carlson available.
Yeah.
We were looking at Carlson there, 26th overall. I mean, and now he's on the cusp of free agency, although with the move that the Capitals made today, that will maybe free up some cap room. He's looking at a deal where he could get $8 million a year. In fact, if he goes to free agency, I guarantee you he'll get in excess of $8 million. It could take $8 million a year for the Washington Capitals to get him back in the fold.
I know this. If the Washington Capitals don't have John Carlson, that's a massive hole in their lineup. And, again, we talk about defensemen and centers. Where do you find them? Oliver Ekman-Larsson just signed for $8.25 million. It would seem that Carlson would fall right into some type of that range.
Probably more because he got a higher offensive level than Oliver Ekman-Larsson. All that being said, here's how important John Carlson is to the Washington Capitals. Last year they lost Shattenkirk, Alsner, and Nate Schmidt.
Yep.
All for nothing. Zero. Nada. They got to keep guys like that.
I wonder if Barry Trotz might encourage Lou Lamoriello to have a chat with John Carlson if he gets to free agency.
I'll put this out there.
I think Carlson wants to stay in Washington, but the money's the money.
If John Carlson was to not re-sign with Washington, good chance that Washington Capitals, a Stanley Cup champion, misses the playoffs?
I'm not prepared to say that. Just their depth down the middle so strong with Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Eller, and maybe Beagle who's got a chance to be a free agent. I'm not prepared to say that. They're too strong down the middle.
Well,
it's tight, I'll tell you. It's tight in those divisions, and it's tight in the East. So, you know what? 7 teams that made the playoffs 2 years ago didn't make it last year. So let's consider that, you start getting holes in your lineup, it starts to create some challenges.
Okay, Columbus is up next. I'm not going to say we're going off the board because the board is going to be blowing up here in a little bit here, but it's going to start going all over the map from here on in.
Columbus Blue Jackets up on the stage. Pick is in.
Thank you to Tom Gallardi, Jimmy Lights, the Dallas Stars. A special hello to our fans back in Columbus at the R-Bar. Announcing our pick tonight is a man who was born down the road in Arlington, Texas, played his youth hockey here in Dallas, and has gone on to become an NHL All-Star. Please welcome Seth Jones.
Thank you. With the 18th pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets proud to select from the London Knights, Liam Foudy.
Liam Foudy, pretty good athletic pedigree. Mother Franz was an Olympic sprinter. His dad played in the CFL, and now he will be a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
And I'll tell you what he's going to bring to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Incredible speed, disruptive speed. And when you can do the things with his speed that he does, it makes opponents really uncomfortable. He doesn't have the scoring finish. He's going to get a lot of opportunities with that speed, break into the open ice, much like Michael Grabner did, that ability to just get into the open ice. But his improvement was pretty significant. And when you look at high-end offensive ability, it's not there, but when you look at where the Blue Jackets have a lot of offense, he fits in quite nicely.
And I mentioned his mother, Franz, an Olympic sprinter. You talk about that elite speed translating certainly to the ice. Bob?
Yeah, and his dad was the CFL player with the Ottawa Roughriders, the BC Lions, the defensive back, won the Grey Cup with the BC Lions in 1994. His brother Jean-Luc just went in the first round of the OHL draft to the Windsor Spitfires. This is one of the, bar none, the most athletic kids in this draft. He was a provincial hurdler, Ontario Provincial Hurdle Championship, and this guy blew things away at the combine, standing long jump, vertical jump, all the jumping, anything with those fast twitch, slow twitch things, I don't know. The kid's an athlete.
Well, it's a fast league. Columbus adds a fast player. The Philadelphia Flyers, they are on their clock, preparing to make their second pick here in the first round. That's coming up after this.
I knew it was draft day. They actually had to call my mom from the draft table and ask her my birth date. And she said November 8th, 68. And they said, okay, that's good. That's what we thought he was. Listen to this. And they held the phone up and announced that the Washington Capitals had selected Keith Jones in the 7th round. My dad was sitting on the front porch, and he looked very excited, and I thought that was strange. And as I walked out of the car, he looked at me and he said, you were drafted. And I said, what, are we going to war? He said, no, to the NHL by the Washington Capitals. And that's probably the most memorable moment of my life.
What, are we going to war? Let's go to war with Keith Jones. That didn't exactly spur him on, though, did?
All I can tell you is that Craig Button's dad, Jack, was with the Washington Capitals, drafted him, paid a surprise visit to Jonesy at his home. Jonesy was at the bar with his friends. He got word that Jack Button is going to show up. So he raced home, and before Jack pulled up the driveway, pulled his shirt off, started doing push-ups in the driveway. So when Jack came up, he was looking nice and swell, and he was on his workout program. He did not fool Jack at all.
Jonesy goes on to be a Flyers legend. Joel Farabee was the Flyer selection at 14.
Philadelphia Flyers are proud to select from Thayer Academy, Jay O'Brien.
Listen, we talked about it before the draft. This was my guy all along. He is from the same school that gave you Jeremy Roenick, Tony Amonte, Brooks Orpik, and Charlie Coyle. He is the real deal. He's got character personified. He's going to Providence College, so playing a really pro-style type game for Nate Lehman, who was just hugging him right there, his college coach. I am so happy for this player, so happy for that school, so happy for the ISL, and really happy for Flyer fans. This guy's legit. And there are a lot of teams that are angry that the Flyers got it with their second pick in the first round.
I would say the New York Rangers, who have 2 picks later in the first round, were certainly a team that was eyeing him. But, you know, you think about last year when they traded up to draft Morgan Frost, lights out year for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and he needed to physically mature. That's the same thing with Jay. So another real top-end offensive player coming into their system.
This is the first player that we had ranked outside the top 31 that's gone in the first round. We had Jay O'Brien at number 34, fully recognizing that all the players in the 30s are a threat to move into the first round. He's a high-energy type guy, but he's also got some real good skill. You saw the way Jonathan Marchessault played the game over the course of this season. Similar type thing. He's an under 6-foot player, 176 pounds, but he's hard on pucks. He's got the ability to generate offense, but plays with a lot of energy.
A little bit like Joe Pavelski. Plays with his head. Really good hands, understands how to take advantage. So, you know, with some physical maturity, like Pierre said about going to Providence, that's what he needs. But when you got those hands and you got that head, you got room to really take your game to a higher level.
The man you see there with the beard and the glasses, that's Chris Pryor, their director of scouting. That's a scouting pick. Those are the guys that are out there. They're laboring. A lot of people say, oh, no, second, third round pick. They're like, no. They put their butts on the line for a pick like this. And I'm telling Flyer fans right now, it will be 3 years, and in 3 years you'll have this player, and he'll be ready to play.
Yeah, those rankings, Greg, you had Jay O'Brien at 38, Bob, Jay O'Brien at 34, but fluid situation here. Thayer Academy, notable alumni, Jeremy Roenick, Pierre mentioned Tony Amante, Brooks Orpik, who we've already spoken about tonight, Ryan Whitney, Charlie Coyle. Let's go to Catherine.
All right, Liam, thank you, Jay. We just showed the graphic of the lineage of players you're going to be joining there in the names, Roenick, Amante, Coyle. You've got Brooks Orpik, and now you, a member of a National Hockey League franchise. How does this moment feel to you?
It's so special. I mean, to be here with my family and my agent and my college coach, Nate Lehman, it's so surreal right now. I mean, same colors as my high school team, so it's so hard to put into words. It's a great stepping stone for me, and I'm going to make the most of it.
You were the USA Today High School Player of the Year this season. Casey Middlestat won those honors last year. He's playing in the NHL with the Buffalo Sabres. How quickly before you think we see your game in the National Hockey League?
I don't know. It's tough to put a number on it, but I'm just going to go to Providence and help Coach Lehman and the Friars win another national championship, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, Jay, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Liam?
Jay O'Brien, the latest American prospect to be drafted here tonight. Brady Tkachuk selected 4th by Ottawa. Quinn Hughes drafted 7th by Vancouver. So the top 2 Americans off to Canadian markets to play after that. Oliver Wahlstrom headed to play for the New York Islanders. And then Philadelphia, Joel Farabee at 14, selected by Philadelphia. Jay O'Brien then taken 19th by the Flyers.
You know, interestingly enough, so Tkachuk and Hughes from college, the other 2 guys from the U18, and O'Brien from high school.
Speaking of the Flyers, let's go back to Catherine, who's now with Ron Hextall.
All right, thanks, Liam. Ron Hextall joining me. And Ron, you got pretty close picks there. You picked Joel Farabee, and you got Jay O'Brien. Why these 2 players for your franchise?
Well, we go for the best player, and 2 forwards just happen to fall into where we had them. So we're excited about both of them. They're both good players. Obviously, young men, but highly skilled forwards. They're quick, they're fast, and for the way the game is now, we believe in these picks.
You have also said that you wanted to restock on defense at this draft. So what are your thoughts going forward in the future rounds?
Well, we got 7 more picks, so I would imagine we'll draft at least a couple defensemen.
What is the overall philosophy that you have here coming into not only the rest of this round, but tomorrow as well?
Well, pretty much for us as best player, we'll go within layers where we say, okay, we'll take a D this layer instead of a forward. But again, hopefully we can get 2 or 3 defensemen.
All right, well, good luck to you, Ron.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. So the Philadelphia Flyers drafting for the future. They get a couple players that are going to be teammates in Philadelphia, and Joel Farabee and Jay O'Brien, but that next year will play college hockey in New England. Farabee committed to Boston University. O'Brien committed to Providence College. So, LA Kings, their brass, walking up the steps,
Bob,
onto the stage.
Be ready.
And their pick
but
here at number 20. About to make a selection. Is there a player on the board that stands out right now?
Well, Joe Veleno is number 14. He's our best available. After that, Sarah Noel, Dominic Bach, Sarah Noel, and Rasmus Kapari. We're looking at all forwards in that next group of potential guys available for the Los Angeles Kings.
So the LA Kings are up. The pick is in.
Making the selection for the Los Angeles Kings will be longtime scout Denis Fouget.
From Karpat, Rasmus Kupari.
Rasmus Kupari, second Finn to be taken after Kakaniemi. Comparisons out there. Lars Eller, Sebastian Aho. How far down the line are those?
Well, Charlie Coyle, that type of a player. He's a really good skater that wants to use his skating to try to beat opponents one-on-one. Ultimately, I think he is going to be best fitted as a right winger. I don't think he's got the vision to make plays. He's got hands, but he runs himself into those areas where the blinders don't allow him to see the whole ice. But he plays with a lot of energy, he plays with a lot of enthusiasm, and that skating is something that's very, very good. And when you're trying to become quicker and faster in the league, you have these types of players, but I don't see him as a centerman.
Great skater, great release, and some would say not a lot of finish, even though he is a Finn. The question about him, he's going to be a great penalty killer, and he's a real solid player. The question the scouts wonder about is how much offensive upside there is. At the beginning of the year, there was a lot of talk Kupari was a top 10 guy, that he would be one of the elite picks in the draft. And the reason why he's at 20, and we had him ranked number 20 on our rankings, the reason that he dropped down was because over the course of the year, good, solid hockey player, but maybe not that high-end offensive upside that you would want in a top 10 pick. So it's not a bad pick at number 20. It just reflects that there was a recognition over the course of the year that his offense wasn't at the same level as those top 10 guys.
And let me tell you, if he had shown that offense, because of the skating and because of that enthusiasm, he would have gone a lot higher.
One thing I'll say is he's not ready for the NHL, but he's playing in a program up in Oulu in northern Finland, which is a tremendous program. They produce a ton of players. One of the owners of that team, Jussi Jokinen, one-time Los Angeles King.
So a pick for the future. You look at the Kings, though, in the immediate future, Pierre. What are some of the things they need to improve upon for next season?
Oh, I think defense. They've got to definitely build up their defense, and I think that's something internally that John Stevens and Rob Blake are very well aware of. Both of them former defensemen in the National Hockey League. But they need defense, and if they don't get their defense better, that's going to be a problem.
And one area I would add to that, too, watching them against the Vegas Golden Knights, if it wasn't for Jonathan Quick, they might have lost every game by 6 or 7 goals.
Yep.
They were not fast enough. Halfway through game 2, I'm going, this series is over because the LA Kings, unless Jonathan Quick was going to be able to score as well as stop it, they weren't good. They need to add a lot of speed and quickness into their group.
Agreed.
San Jose Sharks currently on the clock. LA Kings, 98 points, fourth in the Pacific last year. First wild card swept by the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. Rob Blake's with Catherine.
Rob, Rasmus Kupari was projected to be the number 20 overall pick. You took him at number 20. Why that decision for the Kings?
Well, I think our guys have done a lot of research. I think number one thing is probably speed and knowing where the game is and where it's gotten to and where we wanted to project some things. I think the speed on the wing there and definitely that skill level.
Speaking of the speed and on the wing, there are reports that you guys are one of 4 teams in the mix to possibly get Ilya Kovalchuk for your future. Where do you stand on those discussions?
Well, it's still in the works. It's no secret we had them in. There were some teams that did, and we entertained them and showed them what we thought we could offer them here in LA. So we'll kind of see how that plays out as the weekend goes on.
It's been a few years since the Kings have made it to the postseason and made a run in the postseason, rather. What is the most glaring need that you would say going forward here now at the draft?
Well, even, it's noticeable this year. It's just the ultimate, at the end of the day, scoring. I think compete hard. We have great defense, goaltender, Quick and Doughty and Brown. But yeah, we got to increase our scoring level when we can.
All right, good luck the rest of the way, Rob. Thanks.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. The Kings make their pick. San Jose Sharks, Doug Wilson and company on the clock. Right now, let's go to Darren Drager.
Thank you, Liam. Well, Rob Blake and Doug Wilson, the general manager of the San Jose Sharks, share an interest in Ilya Kovalchuk. But Ilya Kovalchuk might be a plan B scenario for the San Jose Sharks. Kovalchuk has spoken with the LA Kings, the San Jose Sharks, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Boston Bruins. And Wilson has done a lot of work of late. He's also willing to go all in John Tavares. So Doug Wilson and the San Jose Sharks now on the clock. But they also have to play a waiting game with the likes of Kovalchuk and John Tavares, guys.
Darren, thanks. Bob, in regard to Kovalchuk, is there a clear front runner?
There's a lot of people think that he would like to be with Los Angeles Kings, but he obviously has not made that decision. If he wanted to be there, he'd be there. And right now he's sorting through LA, San Jose, Boston, Vegas Golden Knights. One of those 4 teams. A lot of those teams hope they would have heard before they got to the draft tonight so they can start looking at other things. The LA Kings are looking at Jeff Skinner, Max Pacioretty, amongst others. So, and there's a lot of teams that are in that mix as well. So we'll see what happens. Good fit on any of those teams.
What do you think he deserves versus what he's asking for at this point?
It's 6 years since he's played in the National Hockey League. It's interesting listening to Rob Blake. He says we need scoring, but we also need speed. So can he give you scoring? Maybe as a specialist on the power play. His speed is not very good.
All right, we'll see how the Kovalchuk situation plays out. As for now, the San Jose Sharks are up there, and their pick is in.
Interesting pick coming up here. Buckle up.
That's Tim Burke.
San Jose selects from Guelph Ryan Merkley.
There you go.
Interesting to say the least. Here's a player that we considered the biggest risk-reward, boomer-bust type candidate, type prospect out there. The 7th Canadian drafted. this massive amount of talent. Bob, you'd say a top 10?
Top 10 talent, absolutely.
Maturity issues, though.
Yeah. The question is, he's an immature young hockey player, both in terms of the way he plays the game and the way he reacts to the game. So, in other words, how he interacts with his coaches, how he interacts with his teammates. There was a 3-game stretch in February where the Guelph Storm, recognizing that they needed to try and get a grip on this, they started to give him some tough love. They took Healthy scratched him for a game. They put him back in the next game, and he got a 10-minute misconduct after his team fell behind 3-0, and they sat him down again. And the next game, they Healthy scratched him again. And he started to make some strides over the course of the season. But there was widespread concern from many in the scouting fraternity that there was a lack of self-awareness, a lack of accountability when it came to those things. But the question the scouts are asking themselves, and obviously San Jose is not fearful of this, is he just immature, or does he have a fatal flaw in terms of the way that he approaches the game? Not the way he plays the game, because he's a skillful young guy, immense offensive talent.
They're not afraid of attitude in San Jose, and they think they can probably cultivate his attitude. Remember, this is a team that traded for Brent Burns and let him become the persona that he is. They traded for Joe Thornton when a lot of people said Joe Thornton wasn't the complete guy. He ended up being a Hart Trophy winner, will be a Hall of Famer. They're not afraid in San Jose to take guys that maybe have a bit of a checkered reputation because they think they can cure them when they get there.
Let me tell you this, there's only one person that can cure Ryan Merkley, and that's Ryan Merkley. His skill is undeniable. He's a top-end talent, but his attitude needs improving. He's the guy that has to make the decision. Everybody has told him along the line, everybody. So now it's up to him, and if he does that, he can be a top player. If he doesn't, he won't be.
Up to him, but how important is it who he's surrounded by and that the right team picks him?
To me, it doesn't matter because it's all about him. He's been surrounded by good players and good people.
All right. We're wondering about the explanation, the thinking behind this. Well, Catherine Tappan is with Doug Wilson.
Yeah, that's right, Liam. The general manager here to explain the thinking behind this pick with Ryan Merkley, a player whose stock fell during the course of the season. But what made you choose him as your first pick today?
Well, he's one of the youngest kids in the draft. He's got high-end talent. We think he's a difference maker, and we spent quite a bit of time with him, and we believe in him.
Well, you see the reaction from his family, just pure joy and elation, and his mom was crying there on the screen. What does that tell you about perhaps the character of kid that you're getting here?
Well, I think he's probably been through a few challenges. I think a couple things were thrown his way, but every time we draft a kid, they seem to have a lot of people here, so we'll have a great after party.
There you go. Give us a perspective of what the big picture is here for the Sharks going forward in this draft.
Well, we came in here looking for difference makers. You know, we've replenished our team. We've got a lot of core guys, but you know, the game has changed a little bit. Finding a puck-moving defenseman like this, it's got a little risk-reward to him. We think it's a good thing for us.
Well, the Sharks organization is being rumored to be involved in the talks as well for Ilya Kovalchuk. So can you tell us a little bit about your thought process on possibly acquiring him?
No.
Okay,
Great
short
question.
and sweet.
Good try.
I got to ask it. All right, Doug, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Liam?
A great economy of words in that response. He gets right to the point. He's not going to explain his thought process, but talk about risk-reward, and that was really the situation with Ryan Merkley. Risk-reward, maybe not as big of a risk anymore to go with a defenseman that is under 6 foot. It's the new NHL.
It's interesting, too, and quite aside from the character or attitude issues that many scouts had with Ryan Merkley, there was a player that used to play in the OHL, Ryan Murphy, very similar styles.
Let's hear from Ryan Merkley. He's with Catherine.
All right, Ryan, scouting reports have you projected to be a special player at some point throughout your career. What would make you that kind of player?
It's my offensive abilities playing with the puck. I know I have the confidence to play with the power play type. I know I got to work on my defensive side for sure, get bigger, get stronger, and commit to the defensive side for sure.
Yeah, 100 points in 2 OHL seasons, so clearly the playmaking ability is there. How do you translate and make that better on the National Hockey League level?
I guess I just got to keep growing, keep getting better. I mean, just keep getting more experience, hopefully. You know, get a few exhibition games in, grow, get better.
What did it mean to you, Ryan, that moment when you heard the San Jose Sharks call your name?
Yeah, it's pretty special. I mean, I was getting nervous up there, you know, just waiting. It's been a long time, and I was just happy. I guess I'm very excited, yeah.
You are very excited. A big smile there, Ryan. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. That smile certainly speaks volumes. Ryan Merkley going to the San Jose Sharks, and now you have the Ottawa Senators just moments away from making their second pick here in the first round. But it's a team in the middle of a whole lot of transition and turmoil.
I think the biggest question, forgetting who they draft right now, what are they going to do with Erik Karlsson? Where are they going with this player? We can talk about all the draft picks they have and everything. Where are they going with Erik Karlsson?
Well, how about
here? Dorian's on the phone. We got a trade here to the New York Rangers, I believe. Let's see what it is.
Would you like to hear a trade? Ottawa trades the 22nd pick in the 2018 NHL draft to the New York Rangers for picks number 26 and 48 in this year's draft. Ottawa trades 22 to the Rangers for 26 and 48. Rangers, you're on the clock.
So Gary Bettman asks if they'd want to hear a trade. The crowd responds yes. And this is it. Ottawa receives the 26th and the 48th pick from the New York Rangers. They get pick number 22. We're back right after this. The pick at 28, but here they have traded up to the 22nd selection with the Ottawa Senators. So the Rangers 3 picks in the first round. This one at 22. The pick is in. The Rangers are on the stage, and here it is.
Rangers select from the USA Development Program, Keandre Miller.
I'll tell you what, he's an elite skater. He's an outstanding athlete. And the biggest thing for me when I watch Keandre Miller is where he's going to go for development. That's to the University of Wisconsin. Tony Granato's the head coach. But Mark Osicki, the associate coach there, is an outstanding developer of young defensemen. And like Brady Shea, ironically, a New York Ranger defenseman, he's got that ability to take the puck and move it up the ice and move it up quickly. Call him a puck transporter. But when you can quickly get the puck out of your own zone and up the ice, tell you what, that's a really good way to play defense, let alone to try to get on the offensive attack.
He's an athletic, physical specimen, as you point out, Craig. He's got elite NHL skating ability right now. What makes him interesting is that it's only been the past 2.5 seasons that he's been playing the position of defense, that he switched over from being a forward to a defenseman. He's still learning that part of the game. There was wide variance from the scouts on his projection. As high as number 10 overall in the draft. I talked to one scout, they had him because they believe he could really grow in to be that athletic defenseman with elite speed. And those that questioned him and put him down around 40 or 50 in the second round think that maybe it's not a natural position for him, that he'll have a tough time thriving in that. But he was still a consensus first-round pick on our rankings at number 24 overall.
In terms of potential?
Oh, yeah, huge potential, gigantic upside. Craig made a phenomenal point about going to the University of Wisconsin. I think that's a perfect place for this player in particular. But the one other thing about him we haven't talked about, he's got live legs. This kid's unbelievably strong. Very, very, very powerful person.
Live legs, strength, and a versatile athlete as well on the football field. Well, look right here. The speed, skill, but how about the size as well out there on the field? It's a lot to deal with on the ice. It's a lot to deal with on the football field. Right now, though, he's dealing with Catherine Tappan.
That's right, Liam. Keandre, congratulations. The New York Rangers traded up to get you at this pick. What does that tell you about how much faith this organization has in your play?
To have an organization like that come to you and really want you that bad really means a lot. It shows all your hard work and dedication pays off in the end. To spend this time with my family and friends really means a lot too.
We all know you have a special relationship with your mom as well. What was that moment like when you heard your name called with her?
Yeah, it was pretty happy and also sad at the same time. I'd hate to see her cry, but I think those tears were joy, of course. Getting to spend this time with her and really experience this is the dream come true.
You've described yourself as being a defenseman that plays more like a fourth forward. Why would you say that about your play?
Yeah, I actually played forward my whole life up until this is my second full year of playing defense. So up until that point, I really thought of myself as a offensive type player, and I think I can really add offense to a team.
You can also add a lot of strength. We heard the guys upstairs talking about it, but you recorded the strongest grip in both your left and right hands. So let me feel it. Let me give a test to the guys. I don't know, guys, I think he's being a little generous here. That's a pretty strong grip, though. Keandre, congratulations. Look forward to seeing you in the Big Apple.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Liam?
We always look forward to the handshake line. There's a guy perhaps you want to avoid now on the handshake line. But again, this big night for Americans continues with Keandre Miller, drafted 22nd by the New York Rangers. The latest for the red, white, and blue to go here in the first round. Big night for USA, big night for Keandre Miller. Shared this moment with his mother An emotional night. We talk a lot about this analytically, but this is such a huge night for these players and their families.
Well, you know, Commissioner Bettman at the beginning of this talked about the sacrifice that these young men make and the dreams. We talk about the Humboldt Broncos, Humboldt Strong, and the dreams that everybody that got on that bus, you know, they were the same as these young kids here. They aspiring to the highest levels. And the sacrifices that go with it, you know, parents trying to get you to the rink, parents sacrificing financially and trying to move it forward. It is a tremendous part of it.
And right now, Darren Drager is with Keandre's mother, Amy.
All right, Liam, thank you. Amy, Keandre just talked about how this is a dream come true. It was a bit sad because he saw tears in your eyes. I'm going to assume, obviously, those are tears of joy.
Absolutely. I'm so proud of him.
Describe him as a young guy developing as an athlete, because it seems like he would be very competitive.
He's very competitive, he's very determined, and he just wants to fulfill his dream. He wants to make our family very proud, and he's done that.
Well, he's well on his way to joining the National Hockey League, the New York Rangers. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Liam?
Thanks from the state of hockey to the Big Apple. Keandre Miller is on the move. The Ducks are up.
From Luleå of the Swedish Elite League, Isaac Lundestrom.
So for a moment, we can take a break from talking about Swedish defensemen, and we can talk about a Swedish forward.
And I'm going to talk about him as the Swiss Army knife. You know, we got to have a Swiss Army knife in the draft, right? And this is, to me, the Swiss Army knife. He can play left wing, he can play center, he can score in that area, he can check. But to be able to do those types of things, you have to be an exceptionally smart player. And Isaac Lundestrom is exactly that. At the World Junior Championship gold medal game, the Swedes gave Canada everything they could handle and more. And Isaac Lundestrom played in different parts of that game and was just a real strong player. Already playing in Luleå in the Swedish Hockey League. That type of player, he's not flashy. He's not going to be an elite offensive player, but that guy that can move around your lineup and contribute in so many different ways.
Yeah, really smart, consistent two-way center, size, skill, makes plays, no wow factor to his game. Doesn't make bad plays, just makes good plays. 8 of the 10 scouts we surveyed for our rankings had him as a solid first-round pick. He was number 21 on our board, and he ends up going number 23.
So Lundestrom is the pick here, ranks among the best European prospects in terms of competitiveness, defensive play, and puck skills. So the pick is in for Anaheim. Lundestrom about to put on the jersey and officially become a member of the Anaheim Ducks. And welcome to the NHL. Up next, Minnesota Wild are on the clock. Paul Fenton, the new GM for Minnesota, make his pick here at number 24. Excuse me. Back here in Dallas as the first round of the 2018 NHL draft continues. Minnesota Wild are on the clock, making their way up to the stage. It's time now for Denny's Presents Pierre Maguire's Most Likely to Deliver.
Well, one of the things that happened, USA Hockey delivered. Brady Tkachuk in the 3-hole. You look at Oliver Wahlstrom in 6. You look at Quinn Hughes at 8. And you look at Jay O'Brien at 10. USA Hockey doing a masterful job. But the big thing to me is all those players. I picked them in that spot because I really think long-term all these players are going to make substantial contributions in the National Hockey League.
Minnesota Wild up on the stage. We are deep into best available at this point. Is there someone that stands out, someone that you can see right now, Craig, that you would look to pick? Bob?
Well, Joe Veleno's our best available. We had him at number 14 on the board. A couple of big forwards, Dominic Bach, Sarah, and Noel, were both 18 and 19, so there's 3 of our top 20 who haven't gone yet.
So, definitely some options there for the Minnesota Wild. Some picks that could have gone earlier. We'll see who they select. They're up there. The pick is in. And for Paul Fenton, his first chance to make his first selection as GM of the Minnesota Wild.
The Minnesota Wild would like to say thank you to Dallas for its hospitality. Congratulations to the Washington Capitals. Say hello to our fans back in the state of hockey. And with the selection, Brent Flair will make it.
From Leksand, Sweden, Philip Johansson.
All right, off the bits.
That's number 54.
Yeah, we'll call this one off the board a little bit,
Yeah.
like, you know. But again, like, I think what you got to keep in mind is that there's no, from 20 to 50, I don't think there's anybody you can say that wouldn't be a surprise if we didn't have him. But he's a competitive defenseman, skates well. I would say that he doesn't do any one thing really well. I see him as a Justin Braun type defenseman who plays with the San Jose Sharks. I don't see him as a guy that's going to contribute a lot of offense, but he's a competitor, and he moves the puck, and he plays defense. You need defensemen that can play in different spots on your team, and I think Philip Johansson can add that to this Minnesota Wild group.
Still, number 54 on Bob's list. And Bob, you mentioned some players there that have yet to be drafted that were ranked much, much higher. Is there a reason why we're seeing some of those players that you mentioned before slipping at this point?
Well, I mean, in Veleno's case, lack of high-end offense. After that, I can tell you this. Philip Johansson, I'm just looking at the 10 scouts that we surveyed, and not one of those 10 scouts had him as a first-round pick in this draft. That's not to say it's a bad pick, because there is such a wide discrepancy, especially on those second-rounders like Philip Johansson. And we did say our top 60, anybody in our top 60 had a shot to sneak into the first round, but that's an off-the-board pick.
The one that I'm surprised they didn't take Bodie Wild, and I'm looking on the screen, and there's Bob McKenzie has Bodie Wild as one of those guys. Bodie Wild's a player that's got tremendous upside. Originally committed to Harvard, decommitted, then committed to Michigan, has decommitted there. So maybe that's part of it, but I was surprised that Paul Fenton didn't take Bodie Wild.
Yeah, right shot defenseman. To me, Bodie Wild has significantly greater potential than Philip Johansson. And I think what Bodie Wild needs is that coaching, play up a level, understand what it takes, but the skating, the power, the shot, I think Bodie Wild has got a lot more abilities than Philip Johansson.
That said, Johansson's a smart puck-moving defenseman, the sort of the classic two-way Swedish puck mover.
Yeah, just I think a solid number 4 defenseman like a Justin Braun. Like, I don't think you're going to see much more than that.
The number 4 defenseman, he was number 54 on Bob's list. Paul Fenton is with Catherine.
Well, Paul, you make your first pick as the general manager of this franchise, and you pick a player that was considered to be off the board at the time. Why did you choose him?
Well, you know, I've always liked smart players, and talking to our staff here this year, they think that it's the right type of player that'll be a great player for Minnesota. And, you know, I think the first draft I ran, I took a guy named Ryan Suter, who's also there. And you might have a lefty and righty someday that are playing together, and he's just off the charts with his smarts.
Well, the Wild have, for 3 straight seasons now, made it only into the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You've been enlisted as trying to reverse the fortune. So what is your next decision here at this draft to try and do that?
Well, we got 3 third-round picks coming up, and I think it's important that we build through the draft. I mean, we had the same thing in Nashville. We know how critical it is to pick the right type of player, the right type of people that are going to make us successful. And hopefully, as we start to build through the draft, we'll get the right type of people that are going to take us to the next level.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. Good luck the rest of this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks. Minnesota makes their pick. The Toronto Maple Leafs are on the clock, coming off a season in which they had 105 points, which was tied for the 6th most in the NHL. Kyle Dubas on the phone.
Picking up the phone. See if he's going to trade back.
Make a deal with Lou Lamoriello.
Well, we'll see. Lots of decisions to be made here. James Van Riemsdyk coming off a 36-goal season and unrestricted free agent. Right now, though, let's go to Darren Dreger.
Well, I can tell you guys, Kyle Dubas appears to be heading to Central Registry, and obviously he's got some pretty big skates to fill, and the loss of the offense of James Van Riemsdyk, who's expected clearly to go into unrestricted free agency, perhaps losing Tyler Bozak as well and Leo Komarov. But we believe that Kyle Dubas and the Toronto Maple Leafs will be among those teams who, in fact, do present to John Tavares in the interview period, assuming Tavares goes into that period on either Sunday or Monday, guys.
Darren, thanks so much. That would certainly make things very interesting for a team that's very, very clearly on the rise.
They did this. in the draft where they took Travis Dermott 2015. They were picking in the, I think, 24. They traded back. The Flyers jumped into there to take Travis Konechny. They traded back with Columbus, and then they traded back again, and Columbus moved up to take Gabriel Carlsson. They ultimately ended up with a bunch of picks. One of them was Travis Dermott at, I believe, 36.
Yeah, and Travis Dermott's going to be a top 4 defenseman for the for the Toronto Maple Leafs for a good long time. So a lot of people joked about Kyle Dubas, that talking about the analytics and the measuring, trading that pick, hitting a couple of those, and he talked about it and actually joked about it before coming into this draft and saying, I don't know why people would necessarily think that I would do that, but obviously there's a chance that's going to happen here.
And Darren was talking about them making this presentation to John Tavares, this idea that they could perhaps entice him to come from Long Island up to Toronto. How serious a chance do you give them?
Can you imagine, though, let's just look at the Washington Capitals this year. They win with Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Eller, and Beagle down the middle. So now Toronto goes to Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Nazem Kadri. It's pretty similar.
I hope they don't use the same presentation they used for Steven Stamkos.
No, they're going to have to put 20 pounds of something in a 10-pound bag with the finances. But you know what? You got to be creative, and you got to come at it from a lot of different angles. And there's no question in my mind, to Darren's point, if Tavares gets to the shopping period, the Toronto Maple Leafs want to be one of the 5 teams that John Tavares wants to talk to, and at least make a pitch and see what they can do. There's some people think they've got a sweater there, number 91 with the C on it, all ready to go. Hey, John Tavares has some hard thinking to do about, does he want to get to the shopping period on Sunday, or does he want to do a deal with the Islanders? You would think you get to this point, he's going to go to Sunday and see.
Here's Commissioner Bettman.
We have a trade. Toronto trades the 25th pick in this year's draft to St. Louis in exchange for picks number 29 and 76. So Toronto, 25 to St. Louis for 29, 76, all in this year's draft. St. Louis, you're on the clock.
So a trade here, the St. Louis Blues on the clock. They trade the 25th pick, the 29th and 76th. Our coverage continues after this. Here in Dallas, the St. Louis Blues traded up to the 25th pick. They gave Toronto the 29th and 76th selection. So St. Louis, they're at GM Doug Armstrong, ready to pick here at number 25.
St. Louis Blues are proud to select from Vaxo, Sweden, forward Dominic Bach.
So Dominic Bach, winger from Germany. Nickname, the second Deutschland Dangler behind Leon Draisaitl, which is the type of nickname that makes you think someone should come up with a different nickname.
He's also got a fantastic bow tie on, and he looks good. And obviously a German player who plays in Sweden. The scouts I talked to, 7 of 10 had him in the first round. The projections or the rankings for number 15, number 15, number 16, number 17, number 17, number 18, and number 8. So for the St. Louis Blues to grab this guy, I can't explain why he slipped a little bit, but nevertheless, he was very much a consensus top 15 to 20 pick in this draft. Some scouts think that maybe he could work a little harder, but that he plays a potential all-around game. And speaks 4 languages as well to boot, German, English, Swedish, and Russian. His parents are of Russian descent.
Tyler Toffoli comes to mind when I think about Dominic Bach. He can shoot the puck. He wants to get inside and use his size to carve out some space, and he's got a pretty good release. And like David Pastrnak and Jakub Vrana, 2 Czechs that went to Sweden because they felt it was better for their development. It's exactly what Dominic Bach did here. But, we look at goal scoring. He's a goal scorer, a one-dimensional goal scorer. But, hey, I don't care if they're one-dimensional as long as they do it well.
That's a good dimension to have,
it is.
So the first German selected here in the first round. 7th different nationality selected in the first round. So a big night for Dominic Bach as he goes to the St. Louis Blues. Big night for American hockey as well. Plenty of Americans selected. A couple of them headed north of the border. A couple of American teams picking when we return. The Rangers and the Blackhawks. Selection in the draft. The Ottawa Senators selected Brady Tkachuk. This comes just a couple of years after Calgary took his brother Matthew Tkachuk. So Brady Tkachuk now with the Ottawa Senators, and the Sens picking here at 26 on the clock via trade with the New York Rangers. The Rangers still have another pick coming up. That comes after the Chicago Blackhawks. But before that, it is Ottawa as they make their way up to the stage here in Dallas as we continue our coverage of the first round. Player at this point that stands out, we've talked about, fellas, there have been some off-the-board picks already. We saw number 54 selected. A player right now that would make sense, Bob?
Well, Joe Veleno is the number 14 pick on our board. He hasn't gone yet. Sarah Noel, who plays for the Oshawa Generals but is from the Ottawa area, is a big power forward with some offensive ability, who's another guy in the only other top 20 that hasn't gone yet. So Veleno and Sarah Noel, based on our board, are the best player available in our view.
So Bob gives you his best available. The Senators are up on the stage, a team that's made a lot of changes recently, and here about to add a player.
Before making our selection, we would like to wish the Washington Capitals congratulations on winning their first Stanley Cup. Les Sénateurs d'Ottawa sont très fiers de choisir. The Ottawa Senators are pleased to select from the Alberta Junior League Okotoks Jacob Bernard Docker.
Jacob Bernard Docker listed at number 46 on Bob's list.
Second consecutive year that a player, a defenseman from the Alberta Junior Hockey League is drafted in the first round after Cale Makar went 4th overall last year. You know, what I would call Jacob is just a good, strong, efficient defenseman. Again, top 4 guy that's got the smarts, makes the simple plays. He's going to North Dakota, so he's got time. He's going to need that time to develop, but you know, doesn't panic, plays the game under control, but there's not really anything dynamic about him. But again, you need players that can play in different positions on your blue line up front, and he'll provide that.
I like the fact he's going to North Dakota. He's going to play for a great coach in Brad Berry. They produce tons and tons of defensemen for National Hockey League play. That's exactly what he needs. And what Cale Makar did, he's not staying 1 year at UMass Amherst. He's staying at least 2 years, playing for a great coach there in Greg Carville. This kid's going to do the same thing going to North Dakota. It'll help him a ton.
We said before the draft, when we were looking at our rankings, that between number 25 and number 60, there's not a huge degree of separation. That said, as was the case with Philip Johansson, the 10-man panel of NHL scouts that I interviewed, none of the 10 of them had Bernard Docker as a top 31 pick. Now, I should point out, though, multiple other guys amongst that group of 10 had him between 32 and 40, and therefore we had him as a consensus pick in the 40s.
So Jacob Bernard Docker joins the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa took Brady Tkachuk at number 4. Been a busy week. They traded Mike Hoffman earlier. He went to San Jose, then was quickly shipped to the Florida Panthers. And now here at number 26, Ottawa drafts Jacob Bernard Docker. Next up on the clock, the Chicago Blackhawks, and it was 30 years ago that Jeremy Roenick was the 8th selection in '88.
Chicago Blackhawks are pleased to announce Jeremy Roenick.
We looked there, 170 pounds. We were talking to him in the press conference yesterday. I asked him, how much do you weigh, Jeremy? He's very slight. He says, I'm 175 pounds.
I remember going to my interview with the Chicago Blackhawks to draft, and my agent said to me, don't you dare step on the scale. And when they asked me to step on the scale, I said no. And they said, why? I said, I've never seen the scale score a goal.
That's pretty classic JR. And it's a pretty good line. You ever run into a situation like that? You have a prospect in, you'd like to know something about him, be it personal, physical, and he's just not forthcoming at all?
Well, back then, the players had lots of tricks to add a little bit more weight. Like they'd wear their socks high and put padding that had weights on them underneath the bottom of their foot, so they're in their pockets, so they could add 5 or 6. Listen, Jeremy Roenick was a thin player who played hard.
If you watched him play at their academy before he went to Boston College for 2 or 3 days, then he went to Gatineau, the whole Olympic. Jeremy Roenick was a fearless player. Everybody knew he was going to be a great pro player. Just was he going to survive long enough because of how crazy he was on the ice.
But that was a different era. Like, that was a different era where under 6 foot, oh boy, you can't do that. And, oh, you're not heavy. Like, everybody put a lot of stock in the weight. Yep. When you watch Jeremy Roenick play, he was lights out good. I remember his first game at Hull. I was there. and it was like, wow. And it wasn't just the skill, because we knew he had that. He had a fierceness about him that carried him right through his NHL career.
The ample personality that you deal with on a consistent basis?
On occasion.
He had it then, too.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing watching Tony Amonte and Jeremy Roenick play on the same line in prep school.
Think about that.
It's amazing. They shredded people.
Madonna went 1, Linden went 2. Okay? Curtis Lecision went 3. And then you start to go through it. Roenick was 8, Brenda Moore 9, Timo Solani 10. Not bad.
Pretty good.
So Jeremy Roenick went 8th overall in 88. That was 30 years ago. Earlier tonight, the Chicago Blackhawks, they had the 8th overall selection, and they used it on Adam Boqvist. And we talk about comparisons and guys who are fearless. And here's a guy who's certainly not afraid of a comparison, Craig, because Erik Karlsson comes to mind.
It sure does. And just when you watch him visually, you see it in him. The way he carries himself on the ice, even the way he carries himself when he's not playing, it's like Erik Karlsson. And, if they can get a player anywhere near Erik Karlsson, they'll be doing handstands.
One of the interesting things about Boqvist is that he actually suffers from dyslexia, which is not a huge problem for him, although in terms of some of the teaching when teams are dealing with obviously words, letters, numbers, that there requires a little different effort and sometimes a little different explanation.
So the Chicago Blackhawks, they selected at number 8. Their pick is in here now. Chicago Blackhawks brass up on the stage, a team that's looking to get back into the playoff picture. And here, about to add their newest player.
Blackhawks are proud to select from Drummondville, Nicholas Beaudin.
Straight ahead. This kid's a top-notch player. Top-notch. He's got outstanding vision. He can make plays that his eyes see. He skates up the ice. He's got an incredible ability to be able to make plays on the move. When you think other players should have given it up, he's able to hold it, find the guy. He's just grown leaps and bounds in his game. He still needs to grow somewhat, but I know going into Drummondville to watch him, Dominic Ducharme, the Canadian World Junior coach that won the gold medal, I remember going in there later on and he says, boy, what do you think of Veleno? Because Veleno had gotten traded, who's not been drafted. And Nicolas Beaudin was the guy I was trying to get a real good read on.
And guess what? Another sub-6-foot defenseman, 5'11", 172 pounds, a point-per-game player in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, a big mover over the course of this season. He moved up 31 slots from our midseason rankings at number 70 all the way to number 39, and there were some scouts that had him as a potential first-round pick.
And again, it goes to what Chicago needs to do. They need to build their base in the back end. They know they're getting a little older. They're losing some guys. They've traded some guys. This is only going to help.
I'll go back to Joel Quenneville. Get to a puck, make the right decision, and then be able to execute it. Boqvist did it, and now they get Beaudin, who does exactly the same thing.
3 of the 10 scouts we surveyed had him in their top 31.
So he was in the top 31, the Chicago Blackhawks. Take him with number 27, and as Pierre mentioned, there was a need in Chicago. That need was certainly on the blue line. They went out, they get a defenseman at number 8, they get another defenseman here, and the trend continues, as we talked about, these notable defensemen under 6 feet. Quinn Hughes taking number 7, the American heading up to Vancouver. Boqvist at 18, he was selected by Stan Bowman, who's now with Catherine Tapp.
All right, Liam, thank you. 2 offensive defensemen are the way you go here with your 2 first-round picks. Take me through Nicholas Beaudin and what made him a choice here late in this first round.
He really came on strong this year. I thought, especially the second half of the year, had a chance to see him play in the playoffs. I was impressed with his game. He's got a lot of poise. He's got a lot of smarts. He can do it all. He's not the biggest guy, but he's so efficient with the way he plays. Offensive, he scored a lot of points this year, and he was one of their top defensemen, even defending. So we loved his overall game.
And what's the biggest difference between his game versus who you chose at number 8, Adam Boqvist, another defenseman?
Yeah, Adam's got elite offensive ability. He compares himself to Erik Karlsson, and I think style-wise they play a very similar game. So he's a right-hander. Nicholas is a left-hander. So we've got two great defensemen in the future.
Well, one of the biggest issues for the Blackhawks this year was the uncertainty surrounding Corey Crawford, out since after Christmas with that upper body injury. Can you give us an update on if you expect him to be ready to go for the start of this season?
We do expect him to. It was obviously tough losing him last year. He's a huge part of our team. But things are looking better, and I've had contact with him recently, and things are looking up, so that's a good sign, and we're excited to see him at training camp.
All right, and a busy first day for you, Stan. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Liam.
Catherine, thanks so much. So the Chicago Blackhawks, 2 first-round picks here. Adam Boqvist at number 8. Nicholas Bodon at number 7. They address a need on defense. The New York Rangers next up. They already have selected twice here in the first round. Rangers at pick 9 took Vitaly Kravtsov. Look to add an element of offense to their team. And then later on, traded up to number 22. Got some size, got some athleticism with Keandre Miller, a player out of Minnesota. And now Rangers on the clock here. Less than a minute to go.
They're already up there, Liam.
Well, perhaps they're eager.
They are eager.
If they're this eager, is there a player in mind that you think they'd be this eager?
I still can't believe Bodie Wild hasn't been picked. I'm really surprised.
I'll tell you what, who's not having a good day right now is Joe Veleno. Deemed an exceptional player by Hockey Canada for entry in the Quebec League as a 15-year-old. Didn't put up high-end offense, but is a real solid character, two-way player. Doesn't have a lot of wow factor in his game, but it's wow to me that he hasn't gone and we're late in the first round.
Any reason that you could see why he wouldn't have been selected at this point?
Joe Veleno? Because he doesn't have high-end ability. I think he's just a solid player. I think people see players with more potential.
Veleno's still on the board. We'll see if he goes here. The Rangers pick is in.
New York Rangers select from Luleå in the Swedish Hockey League, Niels Lundqvist.
Keep in mind, he played in the SHL this year as a 17-year-old defenseman and was very good. Excellent head, excellent hands. He knows how to get himself in the right positions to take advantage of opportunities. So defensively, he can beat the pressure, can shake a check, really good with the puck. But more than anything, when you watch a defenseman that might not be the biggest guy, he digs in and he competes. And when you look at other players that maybe not a similar size, similar stature, yeah, you know that that's not a strength of his, but he gets in there. And that's what you're looking for, because you think with physical maturity you'll be able to handle it.
Well, he's also a Lundqvist going to the Rangers, so perhaps he just takes best available Lundqvist.
Spelt a little differently. It's KVIST, not QUI. Was named the best defenseman in the second division, the Swedish Junior League this year. Should point out he was number 36 on our list. 4 of the 10 scouts I talked to did have him ranked as a first-round pick.
He reminds me of Sammy Vatanen.
That's the guy I was just
like
go ahead. Yep. No, we're on the same page. He reminds me a ton of Sammy Vatanen, who's obviously a Finn, came out of Jyväskylä, Finland, which is in the central part of their country. Luleå is way up north in Sweden. But that's who this player reminds me of, Sammy Vatanen.
And when you think about players, you know, this player wasn't even on the radar for a potential first-round draft pick entering this year. But he just kept showing a potential and a capability. And when you're in the SHL, the Swedish Hockey League, which is the top league, and you do as well as he did as a 17-year-old, people stand up and take notice.
That is a man's league. Like, that is a big boy league, and that is on par almost with the American Hockey League. When you're 17 years old playing in that league, that's really good.
New York Rangers started the night with 3 first-round picks. They made a move, but they still finished up with 3 first-round picks. At number 9, they took Vitaly Kravtsov. Then came back at 22 and took Keandre Miller. And here it's Lundqvist drafted at number 28. So the Rangers had a bit of youth here, and they select the 4th Swedish defenseman here in the first round. Right now, let's go to Catherine Tappan, who's with Jeff Gordon.
All right, Liam, Jeff, you had 3 first-round picks. You made a couple moves. You acquired 2 great players. What was the philosophy coming into today's approach?
I mean, we were trying to get the best players we could. We got 3 players that were pretty high on our list. The move for Miller was something where we felt like it wasn't going to be there with our later picks, so we just moved up a few spots and were able to get him. And to get Lindqvist there, we're feeling pretty good about the day so far.
Yeah, Lindqvist now the 3rd straight defenseman that's taken that's a sub-6-foot player. What does that tell you about the trend of where this game is headed?
I think if you're watching the games, it's fast, it's puck moving, it's competitive kids that are coming in the league and they're playing pretty quickly, so it's exciting.
How confident are you going forward in the next couple rounds tomorrow and what you want to achieve with this franchise going forward for the fall?
Well, we're really comfortable. You know, we like our list. We think it's deep. We think there's a lot of players left, so we have quite a few picks left, so we're ready for tomorrow.
All right, we see your new head coach up there, Dave Quinn, obviously making the transition here from the NCAA, his first NHL draft. What have you seen from him so far?
Oh, he fits right in, right? He looks the part, and he's happy to be here, and so far so good. He hasn't lost any games.
That is true. A big positive for the Rangers fans. All right, Jeff, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Guys.
Catherine, thanks to the New York Rangers. As Catherine mentioned, a new head coach, 3 new players, and now the Toronto Maple Leafs who moved back there on the clock. We've been talking about Bodie Wild, Joe Veleno. Makes sense for a lot of teams. Makes sense for Toronto here?
Well, he's certainly got a pedigree. To Craig's point, the concern about him is doesn't have high-end offense. But in terms of character, being able to play a strong two-way game, and as we say, declared an exceptional player, which sometimes becomes a burden for a 15-year-old. But nevertheless, he gained early entry to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And we'll see if Toronto jumps up on him here. It wouldn't surprise me if they did.
That exceptional status, because it starts to lump in names like McDavid and Tavares. And then
John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad, Connor McDavid.
And then they go number 1.
Then they go Sean Day, who the New York Ranger prospect who obviously went to third round, and now Joe Veleno who drops. And again, it's all, at the end of the day, it's all window dressing where you get picked. It's what you make of it.
And if you know what you're getting in Joe Veleno, he's an industrious, hardworking player, plays in the middle of the ice. He's not a top-line player, but if that's what you want and that's what you feel that you're getting, then just go and make the pick. If you think you're getting a high-end player, I don't think that's what he is.
I see him as a depth player in the National Hockey League, 3rd, 4th line type player.
Is he a player you take with this selection?
Well, again, this is maybe they see him in a different vein, but that's where I see him.
I see Lars Eller.
Yeah, so he's a 3rd line center. Yeah. That's what he is. That's
3rd line center, yeah.
Those guys are important. We talk about depth down the middle all the time.
Yep. He was the next man up during their run to the Stanley Cup.
Question.
We'll see if the next man up is here for Toronto.
Toronto Maple Leafs would like to thank Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars for their hospitality throughout the week. With the 29th selection in the 2018 NHL entry draft, the Toronto Maple Leafs are proud to select from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, Rasmus Sandin.
Put it up on the board, the 5th Swedish defenseman selected here in the first round.
And there's a strong connection, obviously, between Rasmus Sandin of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds and the former general manager of the Sault Greyhounds, Kyle Dubas, and the Sault Ste. Marie native, Kyle Dubas. And Rasmus Sandin is obviously another sub-6-foot, mobile, puck-handling Swedish defenseman.
Think Josh Morrissey. He's that type of a player. He's competitive. He might not have the same physical edge that Josh has, but that excellent skating defenseman. Can handle the puck, make a play. Doesn't matter where he is on the ice. He understands what play needs to be made. He's going to need some support. He's not a top elite number 1 defenseman, but to me, he's a top 3 defenseman that's got so much growth in front of him. And when you consider where the Toronto Maple Leafs, what they did, move back, 29th, get an extra pick. Bob, this could look exactly like Travis Dermott down the road.
That's exactly who I was thinking of, Travis Dermott. And you look at that, and you look at obviously Morgan Rielly being there and where their position going forward. They're in a real good spot.
And it's a nice bit of work by Kyle Dubas because it would have been real easy to take Rasmus Sandin with that earlier pick. He holds off, he picks up a 3rd round pick, drops down, and probably gets the same player that he was going to take at number 25.
So the new GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, patient here at the draft, Kyle Dubas, gets Rasmus Sandin late in the first round. He puts on the sweater for the first time. He is now a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. 29 picks down, just 2 remain. The Detroit Red Wings at 30, and then the Stanley Cup champion Capitals at 31. Front office making their way up to the stage. The 30th pick in the draft. Earlier tonight, the Red Wings selected at number 6. They took Philip Zadina, a player who many thought could go as high as 3, and a player who essentially warned teams not to pass on him because he would then proceed to fill their net with the puck. And a player whose motto is look good, feel good, play good. He looks good in a Red Wings jersey, and now with the second to last pick in the first round, we will find out who else looks good in a Red Wings jersey. They need defense.
I would think that, if there's somebody here like Bodie Wild comes right to mind, Matthias Samuelsson perhaps. I think Bodie Wild has some real significant potential.
I think they take the best player available.
And in your mind, that is Veleno?
Well, he's the best guy on our board, but...
Strong commitment there from Bob McKenzie. We'll see who Detroit takes.
At this point of the draft, we've seen a lot of guys ranked in our second round that are in the first round already.
All right, pick is in.
Detroit Red Wings are proud to select from Drummondville, Joe Veleno.
Okay, sense of relief.
That kid is relieved.
One word, relief.
That's what it is. You know what? Some players bring two suits to the draft because you get the first round on Friday night. You got 2 through 7 on Saturday. So some guys know they're a one-suit guy. Veleno would have thought he'd be a one-suit guy. So to carry over to tomorrow and maybe have to come back with the same suit, no good.
Especially if you've been sweating it out through the entire first round.
Well, he could have borrowed one from Zadina. He probably has 10 suits here.
It's funny how it works. This kid, he was the captain of the Ivan Halinka team for Team Canada last August. So he's got character, he's got leadership. He was the exceptional player in 2015. We talk about exceptional player in Canada. John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad, Connor McDavid, Sean Day, Joe Veleno. Those are the only 5 that it's happened to. The last 2 are not Tavares, Ekblad, and McDavid, but that makes life difficult for you sometimes. It's a burden to carry around.
Well, how big of a burden is it if you don't become the Tavares and the McDavid of the world?
Having said that, in order to get exceptional status, you must apply for it. So,
Bob, you made a good point earlier that it really was an exceptional status. You had to be that good to be moving into junior hockey at 15. Now, teams are looking at it. We get a top player into our league, and it's lost a little bit of its luster of what exceptional means. And that's no fault of Joe Veleno, but that's the reality of what's happened.
See, the thing of it is, exceptional status wasn't necessarily to say this player's exceptional and he's going to be a number 1 overall pick in the NHL. What they're saying is, as a 15-year-old, this kid is exceptional in the sense that he should be playing junior hockey a year ahead of all of his peers. You could argue with whether it should have happened for Sean Day, whether it should have happened for Joe Veleno, and retroactively, because they didn't go, because they haven't been, quote-unquote, stars in the draft, like McDavid, like Tavares, like Aaron Ekblad, it is pause to consider. I've always thought, honestly, for the whatever benefits you accrue by being 15 years old and getting a year early to major junior hockey, the burden and in some instances that extra year, it's better to take the extra year on the back end than on the front end.
Going to hear from Ken Holland in just a moment on this pick. Exceptional status at 15, and here with pick 30 in the draft, Joe Veleno goes to Detroit. Catherine is with Ken Holland.
All right, Liam, thank you very much. You had 2 first-round picks. You get Philip Zadina and now Joe Veleno. 2 players. Were you surprised were still on the board at the time that you chose them?
Yeah, we were surprised. Obviously, we thought Zadina was going to go in the top 5, and certainly we're thrilled to get him. A guy that can score. You always need scoring, and then obviously with Joe Veleno, you got great speed. Got into the league early, so we're excited to get him. So great draft for us so far in the first round. We're happy with 2 high-skilled forwards.
And in the second and third round, you've got 5 more picks coming your way. So what are you concentrating on?
Well, we want to get some D at some point in time. We just felt we couldn't pass these forwards up. So obviously a couple pick today, and then tomorrow we're back on the board. So we're getting excited.
All right, a busy weekend for you, Ken. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Liam?
Catherine, thanks so much. So the Red Wings first-round picks, Philip Zadina at number 6, and then Joe Veleno, a player who many people thought would go much earlier in the draft, is there at number 30. So we mentioned that look of relief for Joe Veleno. Different reaction, though, for Bodie Wild as he hears these picks and continues not to hear his name being called.
Yeah, well, there's no question. And he's not the only one sitting there. Saren Knoll, Ryan McLeod, Akil Thomas, Bodie Wild. I mean, and now they know that a number of, like, they're not going to go. There's only one more pick here in the first round. So, that's We saw that with our own Ray Ferraro happen with his son Landon. He went early in the second round, ironically, to Detroit the next day.
All right, we've arrived. The final pick in the first round, and it belongs to the Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals. This was the scene in Vegas. Alexander Ovechkin finally hoisting the Stanley Cup. It took a long time, so you knew he wasn't going to let it go. The party continued. A quick sip, a nap, and then right back to the party. Jimmy Fallon, the keg stand. That's one way of doing it. That's the Ovechkin way of doing it at the Nationals game. And when you're Alexander Ovechkin, if your first attempt at the pitch doesn't go your way, you just say, I want one more, and they give it to you. Go for a swim, why not? The parade. And then it continued back in Vegas. And now you have the Washington Capitals picking with the final selection here in the first round. Bodie Wild still on the board. We'll see if he'll go here. But the last decision has been made. It's been made by Washington. Outside of Wild, anyone else come to mind right now as a possibility?
Yeah, you think about the blue line, that's always where I think of. I think Bodie Wild, but you're probably looking at a defenseman. You know, you start to look down there, you know, perhaps Jared McIsaac.
Washington Capitals are very proud to select from the Red Deer Rebels of the Western Hockey League, Alexander Alexiev.
You mentioned defenseman. There it is.
And a Russian defenseman at that. So, you know, they support the Russian players so well. They're patient with them. We saw that with Kuznetsov. We saw that with Dmitry Orlov. And now a defenseman that handles the puck really well, moves the puck up the ice. Not what I would call a high-end offensive producer, but if you don't get out of your own zone with the puck, you're not going to be able to get on the attack. And with their number of really good offensive forwards and the speed they play with in Washington, he fits into the way they want to play.
Washington Capitals never fearful of going for a Russian player. In this instance, a Russian player who played in the Western Hockey League for Brent Sutter and the Red Deer Rebels. Very difficult year on a personal front for Alexander Alexiev. His mom passed away in the middle of the junior hockey season, so he had to take some time away from the game, and rightfully so. But Alexiev is a big guy, 6'4", almost 200 pounds. We had him at number 30 on our board, and he goes 31st overall.
On a night when we had so many sub-6 foot defensemen drafted, we have a 6'4" D-man drafted. Caps can afford to be patient. How far away is this player?
I would say at least 2 years away. Yeah. Needs another year in junior, play on the World Junior team again, and then a year in the minors, just as he physically matures. He's not a physically strong person, and that's going to, when you defend and you're not that dynamic offensive player, you better have that quality to hold off the opponent.
It's amazing. Go ahead, Bob.
No, I was just going to say, we were talking about Alexiev going here to round out the first round. Worth noting, the captain of the U.S. Under-18 team, Matthias Samuelsson, the son of former NHL defenseman Kjell Samuelsson, did not go in this first round. So we had 6 of our top 31 players. Saren Noel, Ryan McLeod, Bodie Wild, Jared McIsaac, Akil Thomas, and Matthias Samuelsson were not taken on day one of the draft. So they're back tomorrow morning for round 2.
Well, whether it's the full Stanley Cup or the novelty-sized Stanley Cup, the partying with the cup continues. So, Brian McClellan makes his pick there. Alex Alexiev, the final pick in the first round of the 2018 NHL Draft. We will recap the first round, talk about the winners and losers of the first round after this.
At Uber, come true.
Back here in Dallas, place starting to clear out. The first round of the 2018 NHL Draft has come to a close. We look at the top 10 picks. Rasmus Dahlin right at the top. No surprise there. And a player that's supposed to make an immediate impact.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody's looking for an elite number 1 defenseman. They have him. Svechnikov's a difference maker. But at number 3, Montreal, and number 10, Edmonton Oilers, Kotkaniemi, the center, and Evan Bouchard, the right shot offensive defenseman. You couldn't think of 2 more perfect fits for those 2 respective teams.
Well, speaking of fits, I'm going to go from 11 to 20, and I'm going to talk about Oliver Wahlstrom of the New York Islanders. who I think is one of the best pure goal scorers in this draft. And one of the things I like about him, he goes to the net, and his one-timer is overwhelming, going to Boston College next year. And then I'll go to the Philadelphia Flyers, a man that I thought would come out of the second round into the first, Jay O'Brien. Character, going to Providence, a pro-style team with Nate Lehman. He will make an impact probably in 2 to 3 years in the National Hockey League. I like what the Islanders and the Flyers both did.
21 through 31. How about at 21? The San Jose Sharks going for Ryan Merkley. Number 32 on our big board. A top 10 offensive D-man talent. Questions about his attitude. Questions about his maturity. San Jose Sharks said, no problem. We're investing in this young man. And Joe Veleno of the Detroit Red Wings, now with the Detroit Red Wings, he waited a long time. He was number 14 on our rankings, the captain of the Canadian under-18 team last August at the Ivan Halinka tournament. I had to wait a long time, and Detroit, looking for defensemen, said, quite rightly, we couldn't believe he was there when we were picking.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that going on. I'll tell you what else is going on right now. All the teams flying out of here, they have a lot of guys that didn't get drafted. Bodie Wild, Akil Thomas, and everything. And I'll tell you what, they're now trying to maneuver to try to move up early in the second round for Saturday.
I think the one thing that stood out to me, the premium of undersized defensemen, puck transporting smaller defensemen, big premium on them.
Final thought for you, Bob.
Yeah, no question. The sub-6 foot defenseman was a big part of it. And of course, let's go back. Rasmus Dahlin draft. 3 Rasmuses in the first round. Buffalo got the best Rasmus available.
3 Rasmus, 14 defensemen taken in the first round. You guys did a great job. We do want to acknowledge a few production assistants, Andrew Guile, Phil Cohen, Andrew Leaf, George Hughes. Did a fantastic job. So for Craig, Bob, Pierre, Catherine, Darren, I'm Lee McHugh. Please stay tuned for the USA Track and Field Outdoor Championship from Des Moines, Iowa.